everyone, and welcome to the Black Business Collective Summit. My name is Amy Thompson. I am the CEO of Creative Allies, and we will be the hosts for this event today. Again, welcome, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know as entrepreneurs, everyone is very busy. So for taking the time, we thank you, and we know that you will find the information you'll hear today very, very useful. Before we get started, I just want to take a few minutes and kind of set the stage for what we're going to be talking about today, and also a little bit about why we're here. First, let me mention what you will learn and what you will hear about today. I wanted to set the agenda and focus on 5 key areas that I believe are essential to running your business. Now, of course, this is not everything, but these are some of the core fundamentals that if you can get a handle on each of these areas, or at the very least, get a good knowledge base, but understand who some experts are that might be in your network to help you, I think there are 5 areas that you can learn about to make sure you're growing and scaling your business appropriately. So today we're going to cover each of those 5 areas. What we'll talk about and what you'll hear about from the speakers are mindset and what kind of mindset it takes to be a really great entrepreneur. We'll talk about funding and how you go about funding your business, where you look to find funding for your business. We'll talk about sales fundamentals, marketing basics, and then we'll wrap up talking about money management. So the thought process is, regardless of where you are in your journey as an entrepreneur, whether you're just starting, maybe you're just thinking about starting a business, or whether you're an experienced and seasoned entrepreneur, you have to have the right mindset. You also have to know how to get money for your business, whether that's private investment, whether that's grants, doesn't matter, but knowing how to get money to sustain your business is critical. Knowing how to sell your products and your services, also critical. Understanding the basics of marketing and what are the core things that you need to grow your business. And then finally, if you've done everything else and you are selling, you're generating revenue, you're marketing your business, how do you manage your money so that you can plan for your future, make sure that your cash flow and your cash management is on point? So those are the 5 areas that we're going to cover today, and we have some amazing speakers that are going to talk about each of those things. What I'd like for you to take away from this event is one thing from each speaker that you can implement right away in your business. We're not here today to talk about a lot of fluff or just kind of pie in the sky things. We really want to focus on actionable things that you can do right away to help your business grow. So I encourage you to listen closely to each of the speakers, learn from what they have to say, learn from their experience, but also identify one thing that you can take away that you can implement into your business today. Now, I want to give you just a little bit more background. We actually have NC Idea to thank for helping us put this event together. If you're not familiar with NC Idea, you definitely should become familiar, but they are a private foundation here in North Carolina, and their focus is really helping to grow the startup and entrepreneurship community across our state. And they do that through education, but also through funding. They provide several different grants throughout the year to help businesses scale. So earlier this year, we were fortunate enough to receive one of their Engage grants, and that's what we used to help put together this event and make sure that it was a free event for all of you across the state. And we are fortunate enough to have someone here just to talk to you for a few minutes about their business, but also their role with NC Idea. Last year in 2020, NC Idea created a Black Entrepreneurship Council to really focus in on Black entrepreneurs throughout the state. And so Shannon Baylor Henderson is here to talk to you. She is the person who nominated us for this grant, and she's here to welcome you and also tell you a little bit about herself. Please welcome Shannon.
Hi there, my name is Shannon Baylor Henderson, and I am the owner and Chief Content Officer of Content Commanders in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Content Commanders is a storytelling and strategy company that specializes in adding more power, personality, and perspective to your digital, print, and social messages. I am delighted to be here on behalf of my company and to also represent NC Idea's Black Entrepreneurship Council. The Black Entrepreneurship Council has 25 members and was formed by NCIDEA in September of 2020 to further propel their commitment to entrepreneurship, but specifically to Black entrepreneurship across the state of North Carolina. One of the ways that the Council supports Black entrepreneurship is through the Bec Ecosystem Grant. The Ecosystem Grant is awarded to Black-led organizations which have products or services that further help to support Black entrepreneurship. Additionally, the Council helps to support Black entrepreneurship through the Bec Engage Grant. These grants are given to Black-led organizations to allow them to host and facilitate events specifically for Black audiences. I am honored to nominate creative allies for the Bec Engage Grant. Furthermore, I am excited that they are a recipient of the Bec Engage Grant for 2021. It is imperative for organizations to develop more Black-focused initiatives and opportunities. We are a multi-talented, highly skilled, and highly competent group who adds a lot to many industries and sectors. As a Black entrepreneur, I know that it can be challenging to run a business and manage the day-to-day tasks. Additionally, as a Black entrepreneur, it seems like those challenges can multiply. I encourage you to wake up every day and pursue the idea that brings you prosperity. Additionally, continue to create solutions to complicated problems. I encourage you to overcome the obstacles that are meant to be setbacks for you, and I encourage you to continue to develop the business ideas that will create legacies for you, your family, and your community. On behalf of Content Commanders and on behalf of NCIDEA's Black Entrepreneurship Council, I am wishing you, the highly skilled, highly talented, highly competent, revenue-generating businesses that form the Black Business Collective, much success and prosperity on this day and always. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for your words and your welcome. And again, we appreciate so much that you nominated us for the NCIDEA grant. Before we get started, I want to talk about one other point and introduce you to just a few more people. Collaboration is another area that is critical to running and growing your business. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time, but I did just want to mention how important it is. As most of you know, as an entrepreneur, first of all, you can't do everything, but you are responsible for almost everything. So it's very important, especially in the beginning before you might have a team. It's really important to have a good network, to have really great partners and people that you can collaborate with. So that may mean somebody in your network who has a business that is similar to yours. Maybe you target the same type of clients, but you don't offer the same thing. And figuring out how you can maybe barter services or how you can work together to service one client. Either way, collaboration is something that everyone needs to really think about how you can use that to grow your business. And so when we first received the grant, we started to plan this event. One of the first things that my team did was sit down and think about who in our network could we collaborate with, because I do have a team, but our team isn't that big. And so I knew with everything else we had going on with clients, etc., it's going to be a big challenge to really get this event off the ground. And so the first thing we thought about was who could we add to our team to help us plan, help us promote, help us find speakers, help us solidify the agenda, etc. And so what we did was we came up with a list of wonderful entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs in our state, who all came together as our ambassadors for this event and were able to help us get the word out, make sure that we had the right people speaking. And one of our goals was to make sure we had good representation across the state. So that was something else that the team really helped with. Some of those ambassadors you'll meet later on throughout this event because they'll be speaking. But a few who don't have specific things they're speaking about wanted to just tell you a little bit about who they are and also welcome you to the event. And so please let me just introduce a few of our ambassadors for the Black Business Collective.
My name is Hassan Pinto. I'm the Senior Vice President of Business Development for Creative Allies. In addition, I'm the Managing Partner for Greatest Fan LLC. So some of you asked, why entrepreneurship? Well, for me, when I was 13 years old, I received a book from my dad called Why Should the White Guys Have All the Fun by Reginald Lewis. I read the book and it just showed me how an African American like myself could create a company and take it to $1 billion market cap. And it wasn't about the money that inspired me. It was about the journey. It was about knowing, do you have the right stuff, or did I have the right stuff to bring fascinating products and services to the world? The reason why I wanted to be part of the Black Business Collective and this summit is I wanted to share my journey with other entrepreneurs. So I want to tell you guys, thank you for coming. Thank you for being a part of this. And let's set the world on fire with entrepreneurship and Black entrepreneurship. Enjoy the summit.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Austin, and I am the CEO of Black Girl Group, and I am based in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. One of the greatest disparities that I've faced as a Black entrepreneur in North Carolina is not having access to some of the amazing resources that this state has to offer. Since joining the Black Business Collective, I've been able to connect with entrepreneurs from across this state in order to unlock some of those doors to resources that otherwise I would never have access to.
Greetings. Good day, everyone. My name is Johnny Hackett, the CEO of the Black Dollar Corp, hashtag Black Dollar NC Directory and Black Friday Market, the department store. And I wanted to support this collective because anytime you get an opportunity as an entrepreneur to come together as an entrepreneurship community, especially Black entrepreneurs, you want to take it and be able to learn from each other and hear what other folks are doing, best practices and different things like that, and just overall networking. I think that's how we get to where we're going on each of our entrepreneurship journeys. So what it means to me to be a Black entrepreneur in NC means everything. Being able to give other entrepreneurs an opportunity through the type of industry that we have and the role that I have. So being able to support and lend a hand to other Black entrepreneurs, other small business entrepreneurs, minority-owned businesses, that's good for me.
An important part of being a successful entrepreneur is having the right mindset. Mindset is easy to overlook because it may not be directly correlated to money or clients. Understanding entrepreneurial mindset is something we will touch on today. Having the right mindset is at the core of everything we do as entrepreneurs. When you have the right mindset, you think differently, you solve problems creatively, you see things positively, and you know that failure and fear are just a part of your journey. Having the right mindset is key. Today, we're going to hear from our very first speaker to talk to you about the entrepreneurial mindset. Let me take just a moment to introduce you to Keisha B Spivey, representing Rocky Mount. Keisha B Spivey leads Ripple Effects Group, a nonprofit organization committed to breaking generational cycles of desperation and hopelessness. She also is the CEO of Keisha B Spivey Enterprises, an agency that challenges and charges people to become the best version of themselves. Keisha is passionate about educating, equipping, and empowering individuals to live their best life possible. Please welcome Keisha B Spivey to our summit.
I'm so excited to have the opportunity to talk to you today about a subject that's near and dear to my heart. It's near and dear to me because I've been operating as an entrepreneur since I was 10 years old. See, when I was a kid, my dad played on a community baseball team, and the kids out there would be running around playing hide and seek, and you'd have kids that were out there chasing down foul balls, one of which was my future husband, and I didn't know it. And as I saw those kids out there chasing balls, trying to, get paid to get some money, I saw an opportunity. I saw an opportunity where I could get them to bring the money that they got chasing balls to me. So what I did is I set up an ice cream stand, and I turned their game into my game. While the other children my age were having fun, I was thinking about how to make funds. I saw an opportunity. My 10-year-old mind was about handling business, even back then. I was focusing on shifting problems into possibilities. I was seeing needs as potential seeds, and I was sifting through obstacles, literally looking for opportunities. Fast forward 2 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and you find me doing the same thing in a different avenue. I may offer different products, but they're backed by the same process. They're backed by the same business mindset. And I'm not talking about work ethic. I'm not talking about hustle. I'm not talking about grind, all of which are essential to you doing what you desire to do at the next level. But you won't do it long. You're not going to endure. You're not going to go the distance if you don't have a mindset that equips you to do so. You'll end up quitting on yourself without the right mindset. I'm talking about you committing to develop a mindset that sees beyond circumstances, that literally is disciplined through distractions, and that's set on success. Your mind matters. See, entrepreneurship, it is not a career. It's a lifestyle choice. It's a lifestyle choice. When you work as an employee for a company, they give you their handbook and you're expected to follow it. They give you the company playbook and tell you how to run the plays. They give you a job description that outlines what they believe is required of you to do the job that they have hired you to do. You show up to work every day with a to-do list of deliverables. You exist in an environment that they have created for you. It's like they give you a box of cake mix, and all you have to do is add the water and the eggs, put it in the oven, and when it's done, slice and serve. That is not the case when you're the boss. It's not the case when you're writing the manual of how to, when to, and where to do this as you walk it out. See, every day as an entrepreneur, you're enrolled in an on-the-job training course where you get to be both the student and the teacher. This requires you to think differently than everybody else. This is the difference with running a small business and having a side hustle. It's the mindset. Your mindset matters. How you think matters. See, as entrepreneurs, we create the playbook. And we normally start out the game with 10 to 12 different job descriptions being juggled at the same time. And sometimes they go from moment to moment. There's some days you got to change outfits to make sure you're dressed for the role in which you're operating. See, as an entrepreneur, there's no job too big. There's no job too small when you're committing to getting the job done. See, I started out selling ice cream as a little girl. But that grew into me running several different businesses throughout the years, and right now I get the joy of operating 3. I run a nonprofit agency that serves under-resourced families in America and in Africa. I run a for-profit agency because I like to eat and I like to be able to have some nice things, and that gives training and coaching and speaking and consulting. It teaches people how to do what I've done. And also I run a ministry. I'm an itinerant minister. So these are all different vehicles, but they all travel on the same street of entrepreneurship. So whether you're sitting there watching and you're interested in starting a community organization, whether you're interested in creating and marketing products, or whether you're interested in preaching the gospel, your mind matters. It matters because it's the driving force behind everything that you do. So if you're just getting started, we got something for you. If you are ready to take your business to the next level, we got something for you. Because no matter where you are on the journey, your mindset needs to consist of a few very specific ingredients. The first one is you need to be determined to win. Determined to win. Setbacks are going to happen. Expect them. When you fall, and you will, fall forward, stretch, learn, grow, and get back up. You have to be determined beyond your fear of failure, beyond your current capacity, beyond your last missed step. You have to be determined to win. You also need to be driven towards success. You need to commit to making your ideas work or come up with some new ones that you do believe will work. You need to keep driving. See, entrepreneurs, we don't sit in parked cars. We keep driving toward outcomes. We keep driving toward results until we reach them. And as you're driving, you need to make sure you're developing habits that keep you on track along the way. But no matter what, you need to keep driving. You need to be driven toward success. You need to be decisive with your decisions. When you're the head of an entrepreneurial venture, the buck stops with you. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Time is money, and you cannot afford to waste your time finagling between options and opinions. So you have to be decisive. And when you make decisions, you need to be fully aware that sometimes you're going to get it wrong. And when you get it wrong, just be ready to recover. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. As a leader, the blessings and the burdens rest on your shoulders. Don't run from it. You need to embrace it. Entrepreneurship is for people who have a desire for more. It could be more freedom, more fulfillment, more money, more independence, more something. I get all that. But if you truly desire to win in the business world, what you need to increase is your desire for more knowledge. You need to become a lifelong learner. You need to read books and listen to podcasts. You need to be mentored, even if it is from a distance. See, my most influential mentors don't even know that I exist. But guess what? I know them. I've learned how they think. I've learned from their struggles and their successes. I've learned from their wins and as well as from their losses. See, they may not know my name, but I know how they play the game. And if I can learn from how they play, then I can keep doing what God has called me to do. I can keep working my business. You need to humble yourself. You need to get in rooms that make you uncomfortable, even if it's virtual. Get uncomfortable. And I'm going to tell you, you might want to pull your toes back on this. You need to, stop reading your own press clippings and read someone who's experiencing success at the next level. Entrepreneurs, we dare to defy the odds. When you look out into the world and you see all its issues and you see its struggles, the reality hits that the odds are stacked against you. You can't tuck your tail and go home. You need to kick your tail and go hard. Go hard and do what only you can do and build your business. No, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. And daily, that means pushing past your comfort zone and placing yourself in the statistic that did it. Don't worry about the stats that says you can't. What about the people who did? People told me when I got started that what I wanted to do wouldn't work. And years later, it's working, so they say I'm lucky. Luck had nothing to do with it. I just made up my mind early in the game that the only option for me was to win. See, success is my plan A, B, C, and D. And it needs to be yours if you're going to have an entrepreneurial mindset. If you're just getting started in business, I want to give you an assignment to get you progressing in the right direction on your journey. I don't call it homework. I call it hard work. Hard work requires for you to get beyond the surface. It requires that you take a look inside yourself and ask yourself some hard questions. So whether or not you've written down anything I've said, I want you to grab your laptop, grab your notebook, grab your phone. I want you to jot these down, because you don't get to be okay with not knowing the answers to these questions, because these answers are framing how you think. How you think determines what you do. What you do determines how you live. And as an entrepreneur, how you live and what you do, it matters. So before I get into these tips, I just want to challenge you. Either develop the right mindset or dust off your resume. It's that important. You cannot afford to have one foot in the door and one out. You need to make a decision. Your mind needs to be pointed in the direction of destiny. Refusing to allow distractions and disappointments to derail you. Yes, they're part of the process. They aren't the problem. They're part of the package. They're what you have to grow through and what you have to walk through to get to that thing that you say you really want to do. So hard work time. Get your pen. Number 1, discover your why. Discover your why. People often talk about what they want to do, the type of business they want to have, but the real question is why? Why do you want to do that? Why are you willing to take the risk? When you pull back all the fluff and you find the why, then you have something that matters beyond what you can currently see. I talk about identifying your why because your why power is stronger than your willpower. If you don't have a strong enough why, you will not stick with your what. Discover your why. Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Why do you want to build this business? Why do you really want to go for it? Number 2, develop your skills. See, I know you got it going on. I know you're at the head of your game, but what is it that you can do better? What can you do better? Who or what is currently the standard for what it is you want to do? Yes, you can cook, but can you keep books? because bookkeeping matters. Yes, you make great products, but can you market them? Marketing matters. When I founded my organization, I didn't have funding. I didn't have any experience in the nonprofit sector, so I sought out wisdom from executive directors until I found some that would help me. Initially, I was running like a one-woman show until I was able to get some volunteers and able to hire staff to help me. So in that season, I took every free business course I could at our local community college. I enrolled in online courses. I watched podcasts. I read books because I knew that what I didn't know was my area of vulnerability. My lack of knowledge would be my greatest liability. And the only way to lessen that risk was to learn more. So what is your next step? What is your now step in taking your business to the next level? Number 3, define failure. I guess a better way to say it is redefine failure for yourself. You know, when we think failure, we naturally think of negativity and we think of defeat, and we shouldn't. Because failing doesn't make you a failure. For me, failure is to not even try. For me, failure is to think that I can do something and then choose not to do it because of fear. That's failure to me. But I decided a long time ago that failure wasn't even an option, and it shouldn't be an option for you. Yes, I fall on a regular basis, but I get up. I don't stay there. I trip, and every time I fall, I'm 5'7". I stretch out at least that far. So I'm ahead of where I fell. I'm growing from the fall, and I'm getting back up. So what is your definition of failure? Number 4, deal with your doubts. Don't deny that you have them. Deal with them one at a time. You know, face your fears and do it afraid, even if your knees are shaking. If you were guaranteed success, you know, what is it that you would do? And if you know what that thing is and you're not doing it, the question you got to ask yourself is, why is that thing stopping you? Why are you allowing it to stop you? So identify and deal with your doubts. I deal with the things that you're fearful of. Unpack them until they're totally exposed and you're dealing with them. And number 5, do you on max. You know, my motto for life is do you to the max, because no one else can do you but you. No one else can be you but you. No one else can build the business that you have brewing in your belly but you. So when you're authentically you, when you're committed to the dreams in your heart, when you're willing to build a champion mindset, you can't lose. So do you. Do you. And do you on max. You know, people may not understand or believe in your ideas. You may face some ridicule and some rejection, but so what? Do you. You need to do the thing that's keeping you up at night. You need to do the thing that you're dreaming of doing. Do you. And those 5 keys are important as you're navigating this journey and you're trying to build your business. But I also want to challenge you to realize something else. Being great at anything requires a level of obsession. It requires a level of obsession. Are you willing to get obsessed with being the best version of you possible? Are you willing to get obsessed with developing a business that will become a legacy that lives beyond you? Are you willing to get obsessed with developing a winning mindset that ushers you into success? Are you willing to get obsessed? My favorite quote of all time is by Maya Angelou. It says, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. You know, at the close of today's summit, you're going to know better. And the only question you'll need to ask yourself when it's over is, will you do better? Will you do the things that have been taught to you? Will you take action? Will you move in the direction of that thing that you know you were born to do? So don't despise your small beginnings of entrepreneurship. These little steps matter, and so does your mind. So much success to you as you navigate this entrepreneurial journey. Yes, defying odds. Yes, overcoming obstacles. Yes, walking into new opportunities. All while you do you on max. My closing thought is simple. Remember, dreams don't work unless you do. Your mind won't work unless you transform it to think like an entrepreneur, like a successful business owner. You need to remember that you got this. And today is about investing in you. It's about investing in your future. It's about investing in your legacy. So now the information has been shared. It's up to you to do something great with it. Hope you've enjoyed, and I look forward to us connecting again sometime.
Despite applying for funding at a rate 10% higher than their non-minority counterparts, Black businesses are 19% less likely to be approved for a loan. Black-owned businesses declined by 41% between February and April 2020, compared with a 17% decline among white-owned businesses. Only 18% of Black business owners report receiving assistance from loan officers in completing business loan applications. 80% of investor and bank loan officers surveyed do not think there is a funding imbalance for women and minority-owned businesses in the U.S. Getting money for your business is a challenge for most entrepreneurs, but it's exceptionally difficult for Black entrepreneurs. We certainly don't have all of the answers for you today, but want you to hear from two experts to tell you more about small business funding. As a business owner, you probably have a lot of funding questions. You may ask things like, where do I look for money? What type of funding is available? Is my business attractive for funding? Or simply, where do I even start? The good thing to know before we get started is that money is out there. Today, you'll hear about where to look for money and ways to put your business in the right position to be funded. You'll hear from Talib Graves-Mans from Durham and Dr. Shantay Williams out of Charlotte. First up is Talib, and let me take just a moment to tell you more about him. Talib is a name that you may already be familiar with. He's a serial impact entrepreneur and former Google Entrepreneur in Residence. Talib is the co-founder of several initiatives where he focuses on business strategy and growth, including the CDFI-backed HBCU Entrepreneurship Center, Knox Street Studios, and Black Wall Street Homecoming. Entrepreneurship runs in his family, and he is passionate about teaching others how to build innovative businesses. Please welcome Talib to our summit.
Black people's sordid past with and as property stretches back to at least 1863, when 4 million slaves were emancipated and today's equivalent of $48 billion in assets evaporated from the balance sheets of Southern planters and the banks that counted enslaved people as collateral. Since then, the restraints on Black economic mobility have grown more subtle, but no less effective. The Wilmington Insurrection and the Tulsa Massacre cost 500+ Black lives, and today's equivalent of $250 million in Black wealth. The persistent impact of redlining has cost Black families billions in wealth, despite being outlawed in 1968. The foreclosure crisis cut Black household wealth in half. And then there's COVID, which beyond the human toll, closed 41% of Black businesses in 2020. Events like these, compounded by the structural headwinds of Jim Crow, mass incarceration, and the Black-white appraisal gap, explain why white household wealth is 10 times Black wealth, and why median Black wealth is forecast to fall to 0 by 2053, unless there's a fundamental shift in the way Black wealth is created and sustained. However, as the saying goes, pressure makes diamonds, and the journey of Black ownership and wealth in America has yielded one of history's most entrepreneurial people. The Black American is uniquely entrepreneurial, with a 50% higher likelihood of starting a business than the average American. As we chart the course of our recovery, realizing the promise of Black entrepreneurship represents one of our best opportunities to rev the engine of economic growth for all communities. With this in mind, Resil NC and its allies encourage policymakers, funders, and partners to invest in Black business ecosystems at scale. Instead of debt that weighs Black businesses down, we must provide equity-like capital that propels them forward. Equitable access to public contracts and private sector supply chains, and the right advice at the right time are mandatory to ensure that the 41% of Black businesses that went away during COVID not only return, not only thrive, but drive this new economy.
Hello, my name is Talib Graves-Mans. I'm one of the managing partners at Partners in Equity, which I'll explain a little bit later in this video. I want to first say thank you to the Black Business Collective Summit for having me here, and shout out to Don, to Amy, to Kendra, to Austin, Hassan, a lot of friendly faces and connections for inviting me here. The topic that we're going to discuss today is on small businesses. So I first want to make sure that we're using the same definition to define small businesses. And I'm going to use what the Small Business Administration has, right? So small businesses are defined as privately owned corporations, partnerships, or sole proprietorships that has fewer employees and less annual revenue than a corporation or regular sized business. That's very broad. So let's distill that down a little bit. If you're in manufacturing and mining, that means you have less than 500 employees. If you're doing wholesale trade, less than 100 employees. Retail and services, less than $6 million average annual revenue. General and heavy construction, less than $28.5 million in average annual revenue. And the final one is special trade contractors with less than $12 million in average annual revenue. Now that I've listed the categories under the U.S. Small Business Administration, hopefully you fall within those categories and you're considered a small business, so this conversation is applicable for you. The number one thing that I like to talk about first when it comes down to the tactics to have funding for your small businesses, number one, which is often overlooked, and is use your own money, aka use your own bread, right? And that comes from a few ways, from savings, from having an equity line of credit on an asset that you have, such as your home. Another one is through bringing on multiple partners. So you have different co-founder and business partners who pool their equity together, their cash rather together, in order to have the cash on hand needed to start the business. Another one that's really important as you get into other aspects of funding is how much time you put into it, aka the sweat equity that you put into the business. So number one is your own money. You have to put your own money into the business to start the business 9 times out of 10. What you do with the money and how you turn $5 into $10 and $10 into $50 really is determined by your business model and how the aspects and components of your business create margin for you to then pay yourself back, if you're able to do that, and or reinvest into the business. So number one, using your own money. The second tactic that we'll talk about today is crowdfunding for your small business. This is something that I personally have done a couple times successfully, and it felt good. And every time it reminds me of that quote that I started to hear in college and as I became an entrepreneur. And that quote was, your net worth is totally correlated to your network. Again, your net worth is correlated to your network. A successful crowdfunding campaign can be done on multiple platforms. Indiegogo, Kickstarter, a couple of the initial big ones that came out, and there's a couple of equity crowdfunding platforms you can do as well. But the common denominator on each one of the crowdfunding campaigns is the network that you have in place to be able to get the attention of the people that you want to support your business, your endeavor, your concept or idea, and your means to be able to communicate with them. That means having their email addresses, their phone numbers, doing live events, after COVID, be able to do some more of these things in person to be able to explain to these constituents on why you have a compelling offer, business, concept, etc., that they should take money out of their pocket and contribute to you. Historically, with crowdfunding, there has not been an equity process to enable the investors or contributors to participate in your profiting. That has changed now. There are many equity-based crowdfunding platforms that you can use right now. All it takes is a simple Google search to figure those things out. If you're not thinking about doing equity crowdfunding, just regular crowdfunding is a great way to, one, validate your product. If people are willing to just give you money for your idea, your concept, that's a great story that you can have for follow-on investors and other things that you need. People already contributed to you. That's excellent. The second thing is you get money that you don't have to pay back. That is another benefit of doing a crowdfunding thing. The third big benefit, I'd say, is you're getting more attention on your concept, your brand, etc., what you want to do by putting it out. Most crowdfunding campaigns are really fueled by having a strong social media presence. So spend the time figuring out if crowdfunding, traditional or equity crowdfunding, is right for you, because it can pay off in spades and dividends and non-diluted investment or equity, whichever you need. Very, very, very strong tactic to use when raising money. The third tactic that we'll discuss briefly is loans for small business. You can get a loan anywhere. There's tons of places to go get a loan, whether it's a big bank such as Bank America or is it Chase, or whether you're dealing with a local CDFI here in North Carolina, such as Carolina Small Business Development Fund or Piedmont Business Capital, located in the Triad area of North Carolina. Both organizations offer loans. It's just a matter of figuring out which one is best for you at the stage of your business. One big thing to note, your larger banks, a lot of that is really based on relationship as well as the appropriate credit profile that you have when you're looking for a loan product. When you're working with the CDFI, the relationship is a bit different because the CDFIs that I just mentioned specifically are looking to work with diverse borrowers. So, and they have specific programs that are much more palatable sometimes than your larger banks. But one thing that I want to point out that is super important here, it is the relationship when it comes down to getting a loan. One of the things that I was reminded of, or not really reminded of, I was taught by a mentor many years ago was you find yourself going into the bank, and if the only person that you have a relationship with is the teller, not the people that sit around the periphery of the bank, as an entrepreneur, you're doing it wrong. We have to develop the relationships with the bankers so they can know about our business, know about our personal income statements and our situations and what we're trying to do to develop those relationships. Because more often than not, an application is sent in with a bunch of other applications when you're looking for a loan or many other types of funding. But the terminating factor oftentimes is relationships that we have with the people that receive the pieces of paper when they go to loan committee and go to bat for us as we're trying to get funding. So showing up in more rooms when you're looking for a loan and developing a relationship with the people on the periphery of the bank is really, really important when it comes down to getting a loan. I just described the bank loans and the CDFI loans. In addition to that, you can get personal loans. Many times, I know a lot of people who've gone within their familiar or friends network to get a loan, a bridge loan, to begin their business or to have more working capital over time. Things to consider. Again, all focused on relationship as well as paperwork. Most of the time when we're looking for a loan, you got to have at least 2 to 3 years of strong taxes, your Schedule C, located on your annual taxes that you do, as well as a basic P&L and the other documents that you can get, which are simple to find, many different templates located on that good tool that we have called Google. Lots of resources there. Again, I strongly encourage anybody that's listening to reach out to Carolina Small Business Development Fund as well as Piedmont Business Capital servicing North Carolina. And the fifth tactic is equity. 2 types of equity that I'll discuss here. One is venture capital and the one is just private equity. And I'll explain a little bit about the work that we do with partners in equity. Venture capital, whether it's Shark Tank or you're paying attention to what's happening in Silicon Valley, the term venture capital circulates a lot. But venture capital is really built for highly scalable businesses who have a demonstrative business model that says if X amount is invested in here, it's going to yield at least a 10x return for those investors at some set date. So if you see a business receiving $10 million in venture capital, their business plan probably says it's going to yield $100 million, which is a 10x over time. If your business plan says that, you should go try to find some venture capital. If it doesn't say that, ignore venture capital. It's not for your business. What we do with Partners in Equity is we invest equity, cash, into business owners who are looking to acquire their commercial real estate. So if you're currently leasing, you've been in business for 3 years or more, strong business, and you want to own your business, the building that your business is in, or you want to expand the footprint of your business, you can get private equity dollars invested into your business, right, for you to own the real estate, right? Again, I want to be very clear. What we do is we don't invest directly into the business. We invest into the businesses who are looking to own their real estate. And this is a social impact endeavor. It's fighting displacement within historically black business corridors. And the second thing that it's focused on is creating generational wealth opportunities for black business owners, because we all know that through real estate ownership, you can significantly increase the wealth opportunities for your family by owning the real estate that you house your businesses in. So to recap, I've gone through using your own money to start your business, using crowdfunding as a tool, whether traditional crowdfunding or equity crowdfunding, where, when, and how to get a loan, grants, as well as different forms of equity, private equity or venture capital that you can get into your business. My name is Talib Graves Mans. Feel free to reach out to me directly if you have any questions. You can find me on LinkedIn. I am very available and accessible, so please reach out to me. And I would like to introduce our next guest, Dr. Shantay Williams. She is a capital activist focused on getting money into the hands of those who can best put it to work. She is the CEO of Black Pearl Global Investments, a healthcare investment firm with offices in the U.S. and the Caribbean. She acts as an angel investor and exited a startup that she founded. Please welcome Dr. Shantay Williams.
Good morning. So I just want to say I'm super excited to be here. I got a short time to talk about a lot of things, but it is my favorite topic in the world, which is business funding, especially for early entrepreneurs. So who am I? I'm Dr. Shantay, aka the Black Lady That Invests. I invest across the board, venture capital, private equity. I'm an angel investor, venture capitalist. I'm an author. So I'm excited to talk about this topic with you. So thank you to Black Business Collective for having me today. First things first, I want you to take away 3 things when we talk about business funding. How to get in the mind of an investor or funder. I want you to take away when you should seek funding and what type of funding is appropriate for you and your business. So I will tell you the one thing that you should know for any funder, no matter who it is, an angel investor, a venture capitalist, a banker, your mama, whoever, okay? You want to be able to tell them very clearly how they're going to get their money back. One of the things I see with entrepreneurs is they have not quite figured out what their revenue models are. And if you haven't figured that out, you can't tell me how I'm going to get my money back. Because remember, every funder is looking for a return. Okay, so if we're talking about charity or nonprofits, they're not looking for a return. So they just want to know that you're going to put the money to work. If we're talking about an angel investor, they're getting in early and giving you some capital, but they want to know, well, how's this thing going to look and am I going to get my money back at some point? If we're talking about a bank or a banker, they definitely want their money back, plus that interest rate that's tacked onto that loan. If we're talking about venture capitalists, you just heard in the segment before, they want their money back plus 10x or 100x or a millionfold. I want as much money back on my investment as I can possibly get. And in private equity, they want their money back. They put that money in to increase operational efficiency for that business because they want to take you from success to wildly successful. So make sure that you can tell the funder how they're going to get their money back. And it should be very clear in your financial statements exactly how and when they're going to get their money back. Yes, it's a forecast, it's a projection. However, if I can't see that in your numbers really easily, that there is some margin for you to pay me back, you're probably not going to get a loan. You're probably not going to get any investment from me. So Make sure that when you're building out your financials, you know your cost of goods really, really, really well. Make sure you know what it's going to take to support those sales. But then that bottom line number, after you have paid everybody and you have spent all the money for the operations, what's left over? When we talk about getting denied for a loan, a lot of times people get denied for loans because it's not clear that you have enough margin to service the loan. So if I see that you have thin margins and I need to get paid back out of that thin margin, that's probably going to mean I'm not going to give you that loan because you're going to be stretched. Okay. So remember, all funders want to know how they get their money back. The second thing, I know that we are in that fast go of entrepreneurship and things are changing and they're very flexible, but don't let that fool you. You need to make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of time to prepare. You are planning your business, okay? You're not flying by the seat of your pants. And what does that help you to do? Anticipate your capital needs, which means you're seeking funding way before you need it, right? You are coming in for capital because you know that you've got a project coming up. You know that you're going to need this piece of equipment. You know that you have a customer that's coming down the line. Remember, seek funding before you need it. If you're waiting till you're in that capital crunch, you're not going to have a lot of friends. You're not going to have a lot of people who want to come in a crisis situation. There are some funders that are willing to pull your butt out of the fire, but they're going to tack on the premium of interest or increase burdens on you, and you don't want to put yourself in that type of situation. So seek the capital well before you need it, and that will keep you from having to spend way more than you really needed to get that capital in. When we think about why people often enter that valley of death where they have that lack of funding, it's because it's going to take, on average, no matter what type of funder you're going to, somewhere between 30 days and 90 days. If you're talking about venture capital, the due diligence process could be months and months. So if you come to the front door of a VC and you're cold pitching to them and they haven't met you before, and they go, okay, I'm interested in this, do not expect a check in 15 days because that's not how they work. Don't expect a check in 15 days from a private person unless they already know you. So make sure that you're building those relationships so that you can start talking about your business. In the previous talk, we heard know your banker. You should know your banker. And if you know your banker, you can anticipate your needs very early on in that process. Okay, so seek the funding before you need it. I cannot say that enough. Do not wait till the last minute. Now, let's talk specifically about entrepreneurs. I mean those wonderful side hustlers or people who have not yet left their jobs and they are fully employed, but they are building their business in the background at night, on the weekends, in between, on lunch breaks. All of those entrepreneurs who've not taken the leap yet. If you are getting ready to, jump out on your own and you want to be fully into your business, there are a few things you need to do in regards to making sure you are properly capitalized so that you take the leap and you definitely have a bit of a glide instead of a hard fall off a cliff. First things first, give yourself enough time. I know we talk a lot about going ahead and taking the leap and doing it for yourself, but there is a planning process that needs to happen. And a big part of that planning process is making sure you have sufficient capital that's coming into your business in order to support your lifestyle. Because I can tell you, most entrepreneurs do not have enough money saved up. They will need to live on some funds before their business really starts to pay them a salary. So make sure that if you are right now in a 9-to-5, you are saving. We know that we should already have 6 to 12 months of savings just for a rainy day. If you are thinking about jumping out, try to double that. Literally, you want to make sure that you are not stressed as an entrepreneur. The second thing you can do if you are still in your 9-to-5 and you haven't fully jumped yet, make sure that you have gotten your own personal finances together. I can tell you from personal experience, when I decided to leave corporate, a lot of years ago. The one thing that I had to do was figure out how to get my spending down enough so that I could actually live on the savings that I had. So I had to get my budgets together. I had to get my credit together, because when you're just starting out in a business and you go for that loan and you don't have that business track record and you don't have that early customer traction, they're relying on your personal resources as the personal guarantor for the loan. So if you can't get a loan on your own, just because you're now a business owner doesn't mean that they want to give you a loan. And that includes organizations that are really more entrepreneurially inclined, like the SBA. So make sure that your credit or your personal finances aren't going to be an impediment to your business growing and to you securing that capital. Okay, so you've got your business plan together, you've saved enough money, you know what your finances are. If you still haven't taken that leap yet, make sure that you have traction. I'll tell you one of the pitfalls that I made when I was originally starting my businesses. I assumed that once I hung my shingle, everything was going to be great because I'm smart and I'm great and I know what I'm doing. So everybody's going to want to buy my product, but I didn't take the time to prove whether or not people would buy it at that price point. People would buy it more consistently. So if you have the opportunity, make sure you have a consistent revenue stream before you jump. Now, if you've done all those things and all of a sudden you start seeing those sales tick up, then you may be better prepared to take the leap, and you may be better prepared to go after the capital that you need. Now, so those are for my side. That's for my side hustlers. Now, if you're a person that is in the entrepreneurial game already and you're early but pre-revenue, meaning you're fully on your own, you're working that business, you are building up those relationships, but you haven't made a single sale yet, you should be thinking about funding from a few different groups. One, I call them the 3 F's. You got friends, you got family, and you got fools. Okay? Now let's hope that your friends and your family don't end up fools, but you need these early investors to come into your business to help prove out that idea. So we talk about bootstrapping a lot. Bootstrapping means you're using your own resources to pour into your business. You absolutely need to do this. As an investor, I really look at whether or not you put your own capital in. If you're not willing to invest in it, why would I invest in it? I know a lot of times we see on social media, spend other people's money. You cannot spend other people's money immediately, generally, okay? So make sure that you've invested in you, and sweat equity, for me, at least as an investor, is not enough. So make sure that you've put some of your coins into the risk pot, and that makes me feel better as an investor because you don't want to lose your money either, okay? Now, early on, when you're pre-revenue, be careful not to give out too much equity. I see a lot of people who are very thankful and grateful to their inner circle for believing in them and giving them funding, but make sure you're not giving large chunks of equity away to various groups because you're going to need that equity later on. Equity is an expensive way of raising capital for your business, so be mindful of how much you're giving away. I'm not saying it's not worth it. What I am saying is make sure you're not throwing around like candy, okay? A lot of early entrepreneurs make the mistake of thinking equity doesn't cost me anything, so I'll just give it out in order to get the money in. Be very careful, plan accordingly. Now, once you've tapped into your own pockets and you've tapped into your circle, and you may even have tapped into some lending products and some early loans, still pre-revenue, but you should be focused on proving out your revenue model and building that traction. You want to make sure that you are figuring out who's going to buy, getting those early testers in, making sure you have a product that you can both grow and scale. Okay, now, once you've done all that and you make that first sale and you've got that first big contract, then start thinking about funding in a different way. How do I take this funding to take me to the next level? Are you at prototype and you need to go to your beta version to go to your fully live, fully developed product? Then you start bringing in a different set of funders. That could end up being a bank or a small business loan because now you've shown that you've got contracts and you've got partners in. You've shown that you have something that people are willing to buy. This now can include some angel investors who may come in early. This also could include some VC firms. A word on venture capital. I know that it sounds super sexy to get a large check from a VC firm. However, remember, VC is a very specific type of funding. It may not be right for everybody, and it may not be the best choice for you. There is a joke in the industry that says, what is the second best day in the life of a startup and entrepreneur? It is when you get your first investor. Yay, right? You got the money coming in, you get to do this and that. What's the best day of that same business's life? The day they get rid of their investor, okay? Remember, investors are people who have an expectation of making a return on where their money went. So from an investment standpoint, every investor, there's no such thing as a silent investor. Even if the person isn't directly putting into your company, they will have some thoughts, they will have some pulls on what you're using that money for. So be careful as an entrepreneur. I know that it can get hard and you want to have the funds come in from any direction, but vet your investors. You want to make sure that they're good actors, they're going to be good for your business, and they are aligned with you. Investor-investee relationships that are fully aligned will help the business to properly grow, and everybody comes out a winner. I know a lot of entrepreneurs that have been burned having gotten investors, and then the story has changed for them. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Now, if you've taken in those investors, what kinds of equity should you be giving away? If you are early stage, then you're wanting to really cap that equity somewhere at 20%, right? You don't want to be giving out 49%. I see that as a common mistake that a lot of people make. The first investor in, they get 49% of the company. That's not how it works. Make sure you're really consulting guidance from other investors. A lot of people are willing to just look at a deal and tell you if the deal is worth it. Every company is different. All the requirements are different, but make sure that you know exactly what strings are coming with that equity. Is it a convertible note where it's debt that's going to convert to equity? Is it straight equity? And in order for me to get my money back as an investor, if I take equity, I've got to sell off my piece either to you or to someone else. So there needs to be an exit. So when you start taking in that investment from outsiders, firms, institutions, whomever, make sure that you know what your exit plan is, because I make money when I jump out. Okay. Now, I know I've said a lot in a little bit of time, but I want to get to a couple more things. Where do you go to find investors? Investors are everywhere. Okay, don't get stuck in just the mindset of, I got to know VC firms. You may want to go to pitch competitions. I can tell you, I know a lot of investors that they're on panels. I know a lot of investors that are in the audience. Even if you're not pitching, sitting and hearing a good pitch will help you prepare. A lot of times, entrepreneurs aren't great at articulating their value proposition. They aren't good at articulating exactly what it is that they have and why it is that customers are going to buy your thing. So practice your pitch. Make sure you are getting it down. Make sure you can tell me what you do, how much you make, and where you're going in less than 2 minutes. If you can do that, your pitch is ready to go. Okay. You also may want to consider going down to your local SBDTC or just going out, Googling. Google is a wonderful tool. Learn the local angels in your community that are writing checks. Learn who's in the game and who's not. Okay. Now, I know there was a talk about crowdfunding. I love that he covered that topic because a lot of people think it's the internet. I can put my business on the internet and everybody will want my thing. And that could be true, but crowdfunding is not as easily automated as possible. You heard talking about your network needing to do some work. They do. So if you got a bunch of people that won't give you $1, you got a problem with your network. Okay. So make sure that if you're going to take the crowdfunding approach, whether it's equity or on the non-dilutive side of things, you want to make sure that you have put in the time, energy, effort to have clean marketing materials, that it looks good, that you have a practice pitch, that you have done the necessary outreach work so people know that you're here. Hitting that message hard and hitting it consistently is the key to success for securing funding. Okay, so my last few thoughts here. If you're an entrepreneur and you are having trouble securing funding, here are a few final takeaway thoughts here. Know your business. Do you know what type of business you are? Are you a small business, meaning a Main Street business, or are you a high growth, scalable business that might be tech enabled? Know which camp you're in. Neither is good or bad. Just make sure that you know which camp you're in and who you're going to ask for money from, right? So ultimately, not all investors invest in Main Street businesses. Not all investors want to be in the high growth, riskier alternative investments. Know which camp you're in and know who the funders are, okay? Be obsessed with your numbers. Make sure you know how much you're on track to make, know how much it's going to cost you to make it, know what other things are built into that cost, and ultimately know what your bottom line is. This will help you to decide what your investment number is. Oftentimes I ask people, okay, what investment are you looking for? And they say, oh, about $1 million. What does that mean, right? Do you need $1 million or do you need $1.1 million? I don't know. So think about it and know your numbers. If you have trouble accessing your numbers or figuring them out, accountants are your friends, okay? So you need an accountant on your team, and you do need a good CFO. Accountants and CFOs sometimes are the same, sometimes they are not. Accounting is usually backward looking. CFOs are forward looking. They're the people who are going to push that forecast for you. They're going to let you know whether or not you're well capitalized for that future plan. Okay, make sure you have a good CFO. Now, even if you have someone else do your numbers, you still gotta know them, because when I'm talking to a CEO, I get really annoyed when someone says, oh, let me check with X, Y, and Z, right? You should be able to answer the basic questions and then refer me to the expert. If you don't know your numbers, I don't feel comfortable giving you my money, okay? Make sure you can tell the funder how they're going to get their money back. If you take nothing else away from this talk, make sure you can do that, okay? Be patient. Raising capital is hard. It's hard for everyone. It's especially hard for people that look like us. It's harder for women. I will tell you, just because you have a great product does not mean the dollars are going to just flood in, okay? Being patient. I love to tell a story about one of my colleagues who has built and sold several companies, and I think he said he pitched 200 plus times before he got his first check. You only need one check, but it took 200 times of pitching to get it. So just remember, patience is really a virtue. I'm not the most patient person in the world, but you need it in order to raise capital. You don't want to be in that crunch. And finally, remember, you got to do it way ahead of time. So if you are patient, then you know that you're not expecting that fast pace. Okay? Okay? Remember, you need a good lawyer. Any agreement you enter into, even if it's a standard bank loan, often we don't read the paperwork. Know your paperwork, know what you're obligating, know whether or not you're acting as a personal guarantor for that business, know whether or not the investor expects, their money first, or whether they expect a repayment starting on a certain date. You've got to be on top of your agreements. So make sure you have an attorney that you're working with. Remember, there are no silent investors, okay? So any investor that's coming in, you want to choose your investors and those that can help you build and grow your business, but there are no silent investors, okay? Even if they're not putting their input in, they are going to have some strings that are pulling your business along. And finally, remember, you got this. Okay, you can raise that money, whether it's $1 million, $10 million, $100 million, or $1 billion. You've got this. I'm on your side. There are other people on your side. We're invested in seeing everybody win and succeed. So you got this. You can get that money you need to grow your business. And with that, I'm Dr. Shantay, aka the Black Lady That Invests. Feel free to connect with me on any of social media handles. My social media handle is at Dr. DOCTOR, Shantay, SHANTE. You can go to my website, drshantae.com. That's Dr. DOCTOR, SHANT.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn or send me an email. I want to stick around for a little while. I'll be in the chat to field your questions. And you got this. Get that money you need for your business. Have a good day.
Many entrepreneurs don't think they are salespeople, but if you run a business, guess what? You are in sales. If you can't sell people on your products and services to bring in revenue, your business will fail. Today, you'll hear from two experts to talk about sales fundamentals. Remember, everybody is in sales. Our speakers today will touch on knowing your clients, building relationships, and working on your personal brand. After you hear this session, we hope that you understand that entrepreneurs must be good at sales. Our speakers today are two seasoned sales experts, both out of the Triangle area. Donald Thompson out of Apex and Larry Long Jr. from Raleigh. First up is Donald, and let me take a moment to tell you more about him. Donald is a serial entrepreneur who got his start with a career in sales. He's currently a co-founder and the CEO of the Diversity Movement and was recently named to the Forbes Next 1000 list. He is a speaker, investor, and advisor for organizations of all sizes and industries. He is a mentor for Google for Startups, Black Founders Exchange, and will release his first book, Underestimated: A CEO's Path to Success, in just a few months. Please welcome Donald to talk about the importance of sales for entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much, Amy, for that great introduction and really the overall opportunity to spend time today with Black entrepreneurs and a collection of dream chasers. One of the things about being an entrepreneur is, number one, it's super rewarding. It is daunting at times, but at the end of the day, when you are successful, it's worth it. And it's not just worth it from a financial standpoint, it's worth it from the jobs that you help create. It's worth it from the legacy that you build. And it's worth it for the inspiration that you create for others, right, to chase their dreams behind you. What I want to talk about today is how do you build and grow a sustainable business? And in order to do that, you have to create and get that $0 to $1 million game plan right. Because from zero to $1 million is where your learning lives. $0 to $1 million is where your product or service has enough customer examples, right, that you develop and refine, right, the secret sauce for what makes you special. From $0 to $1 million is where you understand as a business leader what you're supposed to do, where your superpowers lie, what you're supposed to delegate and who you need to hire. And so there's so many things that happen during that phase that it's really, really important that we develop that momentum. And so let's talk about a couple of reasons why small businesses don't really meet the objectives that they like. And then we're going to talk about some fun things about how to achieve them, right? So one of the small things that has a big impact, right, that is really, really important is that everybody's in sales. Whether you have a bakery, whether you are a technology startup, whether you run a mental health consulting practice, or whether you're trying to build out a technology business in the healthcare space. It doesn't really matter what the business is. What matters is that you've got a couple of different stakeholders that you've got to refine your storytelling, your sales approach to make sure that it's clear, concise, and compelling, right? So that first group is potential employees. Now, the reason that's important is because in order to grow and scale your business, you're not going to win big as a team of one. So even if you have a team of 3 people, 5 people, 50 people, right, that selection is important. But in order to get the right people with the right skills to want to be a part of your dream, right, you've got to be able to tell them a story of how their future is better by being a part of the dream that you're building, that your dream is big enough, right, that they can see themselves as a part of it. And that's really, really important. So that's your employees. The second thing, right, are your clients. How are they better off because they use your product? How is your client experience from the time that they hit your website, the time that they talk with you on the phone, the time that they enter your storefront, to the time that they receive, use, and gain value from the product and service? And then the third level is anyone that you're looking to invest in your business. And that's whether you're looking at small business loans, that's whether you're looking at angel investors or friends and family. They've got to understand how you've created enough success and momentum that their investment is de-risked, but they also can enjoy the upside of being associated with you and why. And you want to go after folks that I call smart money, that can write a check as you need to grow and scale, but also can give you advice, connections, and networks. And I think those things are really, really important when you're thinking about how do you tell that powerful story and what are those stakeholders, right, that you need to develop. The other thing that is really important in terms of that early momentum as you grow your business is trying to make sure you're not being all things to all people. What are the things that you're really, really good at, and how do you amplify those? What are the things that make you unique in the marketplace, and how do you make that something that's featured on your website, in your content, in your case studies? And then another thing that entrepreneurs miss, and it's really important, it took me too many years to learn. And quite frankly, this has been 15, 20 years ago now. I had a PR firm come into my office, this is 20 years ago, and said, Don, you need to be a thought leader in your industry. You need to work on being a blogger. You need to put your thoughts out there and people will respect you and buy from you. And I was like, what I need are leads. I need more salespeople on the phone reading these scripts so I can get money now. I said, I need you to get out of my office. And I literally laughed them out of my office, right? And now fast forward, all I talk to people about is building their personal brand, being a thought leader, being an expert in your field. It's amazing what wisdom that comes through pain and failure will teach you. And so it's really important that you as an entrepreneur develop your personal brand. People want to be in business with people that they feel like they know, that they trust, and that have expertise that can help them meet their goals. And by having a strong perspective that you share online, by having an article that's published in a reputable publication, by having a LinkedIn profile that's on point, by having a video overview of who you are, what you stand for, and why you matter in the market, it is a way for people to do their research on you so that when they pick up the phone to talk with you, they're talking to somebody that they already respect, admire, and want to do business with. And I think it's a little bit more of a long-term point of thought, but it's really, really important for all of us as entrepreneurs to really think on and think through and then get to work and actually do. And it's one of the bigger points of maturity in my growth as a sales professional, as an entrepreneur, that I would recommend really, really highly. The final thing that I would say when I think about businesses that I admire, and I'll use a small little case study. The name of the company is Perfect Finish Detailing. And I had a challenge with one of my vehicles, and I just had this odor in the car. Maybe there's some food there, different things. Like, I don't know, but this was a pretty new car and it just wasn't amazing, right? And it also wasn't amazing when your wife's like, I'm not riding in that, right? And so I looked around for detail shops and different things, and I found the folks at Perfect Finish. And they took me through their process of how they were going to recreate the new car experience for me. I was like, all right, first, thank you, because I need this, whatever this is, I need this fixed. And two, that's a pretty cool way to describe it. You're going to recreate the new car experience for me, right? And they talked about their oxidation process. They talked about how they were going to wax the car on the outside, but also how they were going to detail the engine, how they're going to build a process to get not only under the seats, but they talked to me about the level of detail that they were going to address my problem and make my problem something they were going to help me to overcome. And then because I was very busy, I couldn't get back to the place to pick up my vehicle. And they said, Mr. Thompson, it's absolutely no issue, right? We would be happy, right, to bring the car back over to you. And so they went out of their way and created an extra service where they brought the vehicle back to me. And so now I am a raving fan of this organization. And anytime I need them, I call them. Anytime I have an opportunity, I talk about them. And so what you want to do and develop in your organization is how do you create those raving fans? So what I'm going to do as I finish up is I'm going to talk to you about a good friend of mine. Larry Long Jr. is someone that I admire. He is a master sales professional. He is a leader in the community in terms of how he gives back, in terms of how he shares knowledge and information. And most importantly, he just has that special thing in his heart that if you meet Larry, he's a friend. And if he can help you, he will. And for people that are highly, highly successful to still have that level of humility, right, about being other-centered is something that I just think is phenomenal and fantastic. And I can't wait for you to spend some time learning from and hearing from Larry Long Jr. Let me read a little bit about him in terms of a bio. I'm really excited to introduce your next speaker, Larry Long Jr. I've known Larry for a while now. He's a dynamic personality, a great motivational speaker, sales coach, and just an all-around great person. He's going to share some sales fundamentals that can help you get comfortable with selling and help grow your business. Larry is the founder and CEO of Larry Long Jr. LLC, which focuses on sales motivation, inspiration, training, and coaching, and the host of the Midweek Midday Motivational Minute. He helps people, teams, and organizations go from good to great and has been coaching and training sales organizations for 16 years. If you're looking for energy, excitement, and a jolt to get you into action, Larry's the guy for you. Please give a warm welcome to Larry Long Jr.
Hey, thanks so much for the great introduction, Donald. And I'm so happy to be here with the Black Business Collective Summit. My name is Larry Long Jr., CEO, that's Chief Energy Officer of LLJR Enterprises. I have the opportunity to rock the gold mic as a keynote speaker and as a sales coach, working with software companies, entrepreneurs, sales professionals, and sales leaders across the world. I'm happy to be here with you, and I've got a little secret. Are you ready? I love sales. You heard me right. I love sales. If you feel me and you love sales as well, go ahead and put the number 1 in the chat. Come on now. I see some of y'all are noodling on, do I love sales? And others are like, oh, heck to the nah. I can't say that I love sales. Well, guess what? I do. And it all boils down, I think, to your perception of what sales is. Let me ask you this. What's your definition of sales? In the chat, go ahead and let me know. What would you say if an alien came down and said, Earthling, what is this thing you call sales? What would you say? I'll give you about 10 seconds. Go ahead and type that on in there. Okay, good stuff. Let me give you my definition of sales. When I think about sales, I think about 2 things. Number 1, it's a transfer of energy. I'm not saying you got to have JJ Walker, dynamite energy like me, but you got to have some sort of juice. I say the juice is loose. If you don't believe in your heart, if you don't believe in your head and say it with your mouth, or as Kevin Hart would say it with your chest, how are you going to convince anyone else that you can solve their problems? Number 2, when I think about sales, I think we're playing matchmaker. Yeah, kind of like the $1 Million Matchmaker. I think that's Patty Stanger, but that's neither here nor there. You're matching your product, your services, your thoughts and or ideas to someone else's needs, and they might not know their needs, their wants, their desires, their challenges, their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations. And if you're able to make that match, guess what? We're selling, and we're loving to sell because we're helping to solve people's problems. We're helping to add value. So I encourage you to change your perspective in terms of sales. I encourage you to go out there and be innovative and be creative. So now let's get down to business. I had the opportunity to create a 6-part sales, online, on-demand sales training course. You can check it out at www.thesalesallies.com. We've got a supportive community, but today I'm going to share with you 15. I'm going to take those 6 segments and I'm going to share the top 15 tips from each of them. Let me ask you, are you ready? I can't hear you. Batter up. Are you ready? We're about to knock this thing Out of the ballpark. Yes, I was a former baseball player at University of Maryland. Go Terps. Do you feel me? Number one, time management. What time is it? If you're here in North Carolina, some of y'all, I hear you. It's bow time. Nah, there's no time like bow time. But right now, let's get time. It's time to get to business. So when I think about time management, I think about, are you running your day? Do you have a pulse on where your time is spent during the day? If you don't run your day, guess what? Your day is going to run you. So I encourage you to make sure that you block out time. You block out your calendar. And it's great to block it out. It's great to schedule it. But the most important part is, are you executing? Are you sticking to that calendar? That is the question. Number three, when I think about time management, I think about prioritizing. And there's really two buckets. There's bucket number one, revenue generating activities. I know for my business, a revenue generating activity is picking up this 500-pound phone. Yes, can you hear me now? A revenue generating activity is posting content on LinkedIn and other social channels. I can tell you that a revenue generating activity for me isn't cruising the internet, cruising websites. That doesn't generate any revenue. So there's revenue generating activities. I encourage you to document and write out, what are those activities? Maybe it's demos, maybe it's face-to-face meetings. What are those activities that lead to revenue? And then what are those that fall into that bucket of other? So many times our revenue generating activities consist of this amount of time and the other consists of that amount of time. Nah, we got to do the remix. Let's go ahead and flip it and reverse it. Let's make sure that our time spent doing other activities is right here and our revenue generating activities are right there. So that's segment number one, time management. Now we're going to get into prospecting. And when I think about prospecting, I think that we're digging for gold. We're really distinguishing between the suspects and the prospects. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But I encourage you, when prospecting, number one, don't be afraid. Don't be scared to pick up that 500-pound phone. Reach out and touch somebody. The phone, ooh, there's nothing more powerful other than a referral, other than a warm reference than that phone. But so many times folks are afraid. They're scared to pick it up and say hello, introduce themselves, get to know other people when you're prospecting. I encourage you to get creative in your outreach efforts. The phone is one avenue. Email is another avenue. Social is another avenue. But I encourage you to put your thinking cap on. Are you leveraging video? Did you know that you can send a video message using LinkedIn on the mobile? You can send a video, you can send an audio, you can send a GIF, a GIF, a meme, make people laugh. Please get creative and don't just keep doing the same old thing, expecting different results. I encourage you to be persistent. I call it politely persistent as well as positive in your outreach as you're prospecting. I know it can be tough. I know it can feel like, oh, this just doesn't feel right. But remember, if you're making a match, there's nothing wrong with reaching out and touching someone. The third segment that we're going to talk about is discovery. And I think Tony Robbins says it best. The most successful people ask the best, and I'll throw in toughest questions, therefore they get the best answers. What questions are you asking? Number one, of yourself. What are your expectations? Number two, of your prospects. Are you digging in? My theme for 2021 is shh. Listen. Are you listening? How are you going to discover anything about anybody if you're not listening? The more that you talk, the less you're listening. And I'm a big believer that we were blessed for the most part with 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. What do you think that reason is? Someone take a guess in the chat. Why do you think we've been blessed with 2 ears and 1 mouth? What you got for me? Yes, we're supposed to listen 2 times as much as we're supposed to talk. So I ask you to ask yourself, are you listening twice as much as you're talking? And remember, throughout discovery, your goal is to qualify or disqualify. Sometimes we're afraid of disqualifying people. Well, guess what? Our business is not for everyone. So the sooner that we can determine that, the less time that we waste going down the sales process, the less headaches we have when we could have nipped it in the bud from the very beginning. Module number 4 is the demo, demonstrating the value that you have in making that match. Remember, you've got to listen to understand what's important to them. What are their pains? What are their goals? What are their dreams? What are they hoping to accomplish? Once you understand that, now it's your time to shine. It's your time to show them what you're working with, in the words of that great philosopher, Mystical. Are you ready is the question. And what I found in demos, confidence is key. It's not always what you say, but so many times it's how you say it, making sure that you present with confidence. Can you imagine going to the doctor and the doctor giving you a diagnosis? Well, you see, what happened was, well, you think, you know what I'm thinking is, survey says, nah, you better come correct, doc. Well, it's the same thing in the sales process. When you provide your demo, you better come correct, because I think that we're sales doctors. It's kind of like the SOAP note that doctors do. SOAP stands for subjective, why are you here? Objective, here goes what I think. The assessment, let's run some tests. Let's do some labs and figure it out. And then the P is plan, also known as a prescription. It's the same thing when we're selling. Why are we talking today, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect? What's going on? Yes, I hear you. I'm going to ask some more questions. All right. Objectively, from my experience, this is what I think is going on. Yeah, but let me do a deeper assessment. Let me run the labs and figure out what's really going on. And I'll be back to you with the plan. Take 2 of these and call me in the morning. That's how I'm working my sales process. So confidence is key. And number 2, making sure you have a focus on matching whatever they're trying to accomplish. If you're talking this and you're talking that, and essentially they don't care, so what, who cares? You're really going to miss making that match. There's a radio station. I know I saw some of y'all bobbing your head. We got some music lovers out there. My favorite radio station is WIIFM, also known as WIFM. It's on your FM dial. It's not on Spotify. It's not on Pandora, but this radio station is so important. And what it stands for is what's in it for me. WIIFM. Your prospects and your clients, that's the radio station that they're tuned into. If you're not tuned into that radio station as well, guess what? And my best Steve Harvey Family Feud voice survey says, yep, you guessed it. You better make sure you're tuned into the what's in it for me radio station, and that you hone in on that. You focus on delivering value to those needs that they have. After we get through the demo, now we've got a pipeline. Now we got prospects. We call that prospect management. And when I think about prospect management, the key word there is prospects. If you haven't done discovery and you don't continue to discover if there's a potential fit, guess what? You're now going to be working with suspects and not prospects. Tire kickers, time wasters. And in the words of the sweet Georgia Brown, the great sweet Georgia Brown, you can Google her. Ain't nobody got time for that. I don't know about you, but my time is valuable. And I'm not going to spend my time working, giving my time, my energy, my resource to suspects, because then I'm missing out on working with prospects. It's your choice. I encourage you to guard your time with everything that you can, because guess what? Time, it really is money. After you've gotten through managing your pipeline, now we get into the good stuff. We get into the closing. Well, guess what? Closing isn't an event that starts at the end. Closing starts at the very beginning. So I encourage you to have a plan. Understand the path that you're following. If you need a GPS system, holla at your boy. I can help you out but you've got to have a plan. Like the great Allen Iverson said, you got to practice. Yes, Allen, we're talking about practice, not the game. You've got to practice how you're going to close this deal. And remember that it's all about the relationship. I'm going to close on this topic right here. Make sure you ask for the business. So many times I see sales professionals, and really they're sales amateurs. They never ask for the business. Think about it. At some point, you've got to get down on bended knee and you've got to ask, will you marry me? In business and in sales, you've got to ask for the business. Don't be scared. Don't think that they're just going to assume. It's not the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. No, you've got to ask the question in order to knock out that home run of a sale. So I encourage you to please step into your greatness. I encourage you to join the I Love Selling crew. Please feel free to connect with me if I can ever assist, if I can ever serve as a resource. I'm Larry Long Jr., and I'm now going to sign off and pass the mic over to Amy. Take it away, Amy. Peace.
There will always be back and forth over which comes first, sales or marketing. One thing we know for sure is that they are both extremely important. There are several free tools that can make your brand stand out from the competition, but you need to know which ones are most important. Today you'll hear from 3 marketing and communication experts to talk about the basics. You will hear them talk about having a logo, a great website, a social media presence, and the importance of staying focused on marketing. After this session, you should walk away knowing this: everyone deserves great marketing, and you don't have to break the bank to get it. Your speakers today will talk about communication, marketing tactics, and turning pain into profit. Greg Hedgpath is out of Greenville. Amy Thompson is out of Raleigh. And Jay Hackett is out of Asheville. And all 3 are here to share their marketing expertise with you. First up will be Greg, and let me take a moment to share his background. Greg is the president and CEO of Substantial Media, a minority multimedia platform to amplify the voices and stories of Black and Brown communities. Greg has been in the field of higher education marketing and communication for over 15 years, serving in leadership roles at the divisional and university level. Please welcome Greg to talk with you about effective communication strategies to grow your brand.
What's up, everybody? We're here, the Black Business Collective Summit. Look, at least we here virtually anyway. Shout out to the Black Business Collective NC for having me. How many of us, real quick, transparent moment, struggle with whether to look at their computer camera or their face during these virtual meetings and events? I just must be a me thing then. Y'all, I can't wait though for the day where we can all be in the same space and feel that energy and spirit of gathering amongst one another and not be worried about being tested afterwards. They told me I got 15 minutes with you, so I'm gonna go ahead and punch it in now. But I'll be honest, I grew up in a rural Baptist church, so the preacher didn't let us go until he had broken a good sweat and lost his voice. I'll do my best, I promise. As mentioned, I'm Greg Hedgpath, president and CEO of Substantial Media LLC, a Black-owned and operated multimedia company that exists to do one thing, and that is to amplify Black stories. Our firm belief is that our communities are of considerable importance, size, and worth, that they are strongly built and made. Y'all, we are substantial, and so is our purpose. If that sounds well rehearsed, I promise you it's because I say it all the time, and more importantly, I believe it. Now that I've gotten that PSA plug moment out of the way, I love everything about marketing and communications. Larry said he loves sales. Well, y'all, I love marketing and communications at its core. What is it? Right? We're here to talk about marketing basics. Communications is the use of messaging conveyed across written, visual, and spoken mediums, right? It allows us to convey information and meaning. Not only do I love this space, y'all, I teach it, and I teach others how to embrace and live in it. or at the very least, give it further and more consideration. I literally teach it. I just got done with an 8 o'clock class. I'm a professor over in the Mass Communications and Digital Technology Department at Shaw University. Through effective communications, we are able, y'all, to improve cultural, social, professional, and personal understanding. And get this, we can transmit information and ideas to individuals, organizations, communities, and now in this digital era across nations and global populations. Let's not be confused though. The act of communicating, marketing, and branding are totally different, yet linked in such a way they need each other. I'm gonna put my professor glasses on just for a moment. Let's talk terms. Marketing is the activity, set of institutions, and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. Branding is a name. It's a term, a design. Simply, it's a symbol. It's some form of feature of identity that identifies one seller's goods or services as distinct from those of another. I want to take it a step further though. Your brand is who you are. It is constantly being communicated through what you do, what you say, how you look, what you associate yourself with. And believe it or not, these days, what you don't do, what you don't say, and what you don't associate with. All right. Turning off professor mode. Let me ask this question because I want some form of engagement. If you were a brand, what brand would you be? I know there's a slight delay. Somebody throw some stuff in the chat. All right, I got 15 minutes, so I'm gonna dive in. Now, let me ask you this. How many of you said you're a brand? And if you didn't, why not? Why can't you be the next Amazon, Nike, Facebook, Black Enterprise, Jay-Z and Beyonce? There's no reason we don't believe that Substantial can't be just as big as Blabberty, Ebony, Essence, Times, all those media giants. Believe it and put in the work. Y'all, most of the time we're doing for the sake of doing, and we all operate on 3 levels. What we do, how we do it, and why we do it. We hit those first 2 really well, but sometimes we struggle with the third. So many of us believe that to have good quality brands, we have to have this formula. Positive images plus tons of content equals standout brands. It is not that simple. And if it was, we'd all be millionaires and the wealth gap wouldn't be as wide as the Grand Canyon. It's a whole nother story, a whole nother event, a whole nother conference. We're here to talk about the marketing basics. So I won't get into the fine print and muddy details, but what I will share is, again, that marketing is the action you take to connect with your consumers. Marketing is how we build awareness, while branding, again, y'all, is who you are. Branding is your strategy. It cultivates what your consumers can expect and what they will experience. Here's this R word. You've already heard it already now. It is the relationships you build. There are so many ways to market, so many methods, mediums, tools, companies to do it for you. You heard Donald Thompson and Larry Long Jr. talk about a few of them earlier. For me, there are 3 basic things, and please know I'm simplifying for the sake of time. So y'all, here's where I'm gonna start preaching. You ready? 1, get to know your audience. Who are they? What are their needs? What are their problems? Can you even solve those problems? I was told a long time ago, life itself is a series of attempts to accomplish specific projects, small things. How are you marketing and communicating that your company can do that? Have you ever done a level of customer discovery to see if your product is even needed? Or will it be accepted in the market? Y'all, YouTube was meant to be a dating site. when it launched in 2005. Of course, it failed. A year later, the platform was receiving 25 million views and seeing well over 20,000 uploads every day. 2, lead them to the outcome you want. I'll say it again, lead them to the outcome that you want. What do you want them to do? Them being your consumers. We're all sheep looking for shepherds. Don't let anybody tell you different. We all follow something or someone. Communicate and market clearly how you want someone to engage and interact with your brand. Buy this, support that, subscribe, join us, be the first, don't be the last. Have a marketing and communications plan. It is the vital roadmap to achieving your sales and growth goals. It's written in the word. I told you I was going to be preaching. It's written in the word. Write the vision. Make it plain on tablets. See, even God already knew the growth of the technology market before there ever was such. What I'm trying to say is lead your consumers to that promised land that is your product or service. 3, do not do for the sake of doing. Don't be there just because everyone else is. Be innovative, creative. In some cases, be bold and unique. How many of us have a Nokia flip phone? Right? It's okay if you do. Don't be ashamed. How many of us would book a flight on the first plane that the Wright brothers flew? Here's the one. How many of us would place our credit card information into a website that had one sentence, one pixelated image, and a space that said credit card information here, please? Y'all, you got to invest in good marketing that allows you to communicate your brand story and lead you to the conversions that you want, need, and deserve. Be willing to adapt and pull out certain bits and pieces of that story for certain segments of your audience. It was 3 things, but I promise you, it feels like a lot. That's heavy. I am always here to help you unpack it. In closing, I love these words that my auntie Maya Angelou left for us to continue to repeat and find our own meaning in. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I'll say it again. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Great brands these days build a relationship with their consumers in such a way that we feel compelled to spend our hard-earned money. We feel compelled to see them succeed. Think about it. Think about the reasons you spend money with certain brands. What feeling does it give you? What relationship do you have? What relationship have they built with you? How are they helping you enhance or market and make life better? Find that and ensure you're incorporating it into your own brand and messaging. Listen, I'm passing the digital collection plate. I'm passing the digital collection plate around to make sure y'all put some in for this good marketing word I'm giving. No, I'm joking. I just want to simply say thank you all so much for investing a few moments of your time with me. Now let me introduce the next speaker. You've already heard a little bit from Amy during this event, but she's up next to talk more about marketing. Amy is the CEO of Creative Allies, a certified minority-owned digital marketing firm. Her company focuses on helping small businesses tell their stories and create great branding, get this, at a reasonable cost. Creative Allies is also the host for this summit, and everything from the website, the registration process to this production is handled by her team. Please welcome Amy to talk to you about how you can get marketing without breaking the bank. Thank you all so much.
Well, thank you, Greg, so much for that introduction. And really, I appreciate all of the points that you highlighted as it relates to marketing. And one of the things that really resonated with me was understanding the difference between marketing and branding. And that is extremely important for people to understand. What I wanted to talk about today was a bit more tactical and talk to you about a few things that I think are very, very important for all entrepreneurs to understand. Like I mentioned towards the beginning of the event, you don't need to be an expert in everything to be successful, but you do need to have a really good grasp on a lot of different things, and then you need to know where to go for that expertise. And so a lot of things you might find you can do yourself, you can have your team do, but the quickest way that you'll be successful as an entrepreneur is understanding where you don't have a strength, and then go find someone to work with you to complement your team that may have that strength. And marketing is definitely one of those areas. We always tell our clients, everyone deserves great marketing, and you don't have to break the bank to get it. And so whether that's your logo, your website, your social, your videos, there is a lot you can do, maybe not always free, but there are a lot of things you can do for free or low cost. And it's a matter of knowing where to go, knowing who to talk to, and also just having a good focus on marketing, but not being so quick to just spend money all the time without really making educated decisions on where you're spending your money. So there are 5 different areas that I want to talk to you today about that I think will be really core to making sure that you're covering some of those marketing basics. So the 5 things I want to talk about are Google search, your website, your content, your social media, and your graphics. Okay, Google search is one that I like to talk about first because it's one of those things, if you've ever heard of SEO or search engine optimization, that's really what it's about. It's making sure that your company or you as an individual show up on that first page in Google. And that is a challenge. Everybody's trying to figure out how to do it. But it's also something that people can kind of put to the side if they don't understand it. SEO is something that seems difficult, but it's really quite an easy concept to understand. So the way I like to explain it to people is just to think about how you use search yourself in your everyday life, kind of put your business to the side. So let's just say, okay, it's lunchtime and you're wanting something to eat, maybe you want to try something new. The first thing that most people do is pull out their phone, they go to Google and search for something. So let's say you're in the mood for Italian food, then that's what you're going to start typing in. But based on your preferences, based on what you like, based on what you're looking for, that's what you're going to type into that search bar. So let's say we live in Raleigh, let's say you're in North Raleigh, right? And you're looking for an Italian restaurant in North Raleigh that serves, maybe there's something specific you like. You can type all of that into Google and certain restaurants will come up. Why do they come up? Well, there are 2 reasons. One is because they have those specific words called keywords that you've typed in on their website and their content, right? Those could be just organic keywords that they're using somewhere on their site. They could also pay for it. And you may have heard of paid search, pay-per-click, things like that. So that certain keywords that they know are affiliated with their business, they pay for them. Meaning if you go in and you type it into the search bar, their business is likely to come up because they're paying for you to see it first. So there are 2 ways, organic and paid, that you can help to make sure that your business is towards the beginning of people's search. So just like you might go and search for a restaurant or search for a type of food, people are searching for businesses in that same way. So if you are someone who's looking for a new hairstylist, you would go to Google and you would start to search the type of hair you have or the location you want, those type of things. If you're looking for a plumber, then you might also search for certain words related to that. And you're going to look and see who comes up on the first page, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea is that search is really something that every single one of us does every single day. It's just that sometimes people get it confused when they're thinking about their business, but it's exactly the same process as in your personal life. And so what you want to do as a business is figure out 2 things. One, what can I do from an organic perspective, like I mentioned? And then do I want to invest the money in paid search? And there are a lot of factors that determine that. You can talk to, marketing vendors to help you. But the key is understanding how your customers and your potential customers find you. So let's use Creative Allies as an example. We're a marketing company. We do a lot of different things with websites. It's something that we do. We create websites. So what are those words that people are looking for, or that people are using, I should say, when they're searching for a vendor that does websites? Are they looking for someone local? So they might say near me, like a website vendor near me. Are they looking for cheap, right? They might use that adjective. Are they looking for a certain tool like WordPress or Wix or Squarespace? So really understanding who our clients are, who our potential clients are, and what kind of things would they type into that search bar. And those are the things we want to write articles about. Those are the things we want to have included, those words we want to have included in our content. If we choose to do any paid search, then we would use those words. So it's important to understand your client, understand how they look for things, what they search for, what words they use. And that's going to really help you kind of shape the content and the keywords that you have on your site. And then hopefully help you, if you've heard the word optimization, optimize the content on your site so that when someone is searching for, let's say, a website vendor in Raleigh, North Carolina, my hope is that Creative Allies shows up. Won't show up at the top because we don't spend money like that, but it would show up on the first page or maybe the second page, but somewhere that is not too far down the list where people would find us and then people would reach out to us. We have a lot of clients who might be looking for Black-owned marketing agencies, and then not that many would come up. And so I actually have a lot of people who contact us because that's specifically what they're searching for. We get a lot of people who are looking for agencies that are in North Carolina or South Carolina. They really want to have somebody local. So those are the type of things that can help you once you understand what people are looking for and how they search, can kind of help you with your content on your website. So the Google search piece is actually very, very important because if people can't find you, they can't buy from you. It's most important if you had a brick and mortar, but now that especially we're in pandemic and even people who had physical stores before still need to do things online, people are buying more online than they were, in 2019. It's important that you have a presence through search so that when people want to buy something or they want to investigate buying something, they're searching and then they're finding your company. And that's really how you're going to drive traffic to your website, etc. And you have that opportunity to have a conversation with them. So Google search would be the first thing I would say. You should have an understanding as a business owner. Again, you don't need to be an expert. There are plenty of people you can hire, partner with to help you, but you need to have a good understanding of what it's about and how you can use it to help grow your business. The second thing I'll talk about would be the website. So the first thing is making sure that when people are searching for something that you offer, that they're getting to your website. That's kind of the first step. Okay, now they're at your website. Well, what do they see when they get there? What do they see as far as aesthetically, right? How does it look? Or let me even take a step back. Worst case scenario, you don't have a website. And so they're doing all this searching and maybe they find you because of Facebook or Instagram, but they actually don't find a website where it's very clear what you offer and who you are. So that would be something you want to correct as quickly as possible. But let's say you do have a website. Then it's about assessing your site and making sure when they get there, they don't want to leave. And so part of it is about the creative and how it looks and your colors and your branding and all of that. But more important than the aesthetics would be the content on your site. So similar to what I was just talking about with the search, making sure you're using the right keywords. But the biggest thing I would say about your website content is that your goal should be to answer questions that people have. A lot of times with a website, people take it a little bit too personally and it's just me, right? So you're telling everybody about you, who you've worked with, what you do, all that stuff, which is great and it's necessary and you want to have that on your website. But more than that, you want to answer questions. So when you're creating website content, you want to be thinking, you want to put yourself in the shoes of your visitor and not so much in the shoes of yourself as the business owner. So think again about yourself as a customer. We all spend money. We all go to websites. We all buy online. So when you go to a website, what do you want to see, right? Let's say, again, back to maybe hairstylists that you're looking for, and you end up on somebody's website. You might want to know pricing. You might want to know, how do you make an appointment? There are specific things that you're looking for. And you want to make sure as a business owner that those things that people are looking for are easy to find on your site. People do not, first of all, read a lot or spend a lot of time on websites. So you've got to figure out, how do you capture people's attention? How do you get people to stay longer? And long for a website would be like a minute. So staying on your website for a minute would be pretty good, actually. So unless you have really compelling content, again, you're answering those questions. You're not making it so much me, but you're telling people not what you sell, but how you help them. And so for us, for example, Creative Allies, we create websites, yes, but it's also about helping you build your digital presence, helping you make sure that customers can find you. Really, anybody could create a website. They're not that difficult to create, but making sure that your keywords are optimized appropriately, making sure that your content is appropriate to answer those questions. That's the part that a lot of people miss. So your website, yes, you want it to look good. Yes, you want it to be, creative and stand out, but really it is about that content. That's the bigger part of it. The other thing I'll say about websites, this is probably the one area of marketing where people overspend a lot of times. And the biggest part where I see people overspending is on design, to be honest with you. And they get kind of sucked into how great a website can look. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? There's nothing wrong with spending time and spending a lot of effort making sure your site looks amazing. But don't spend the money on looking amazing at the expense of having poor content. Because again, people do not spend a lot of time on websites. So when they get there, yes, the first impression, they're going to see your site and say it looks great. But if you don't have good content, you don't answer some of the questions they might have, they're not going to buy from you. And so your real goal is not to just be pretty, so to speak, on your website. It's to be educational, to be informative, to make sure that people look at your company and look at you as an expert on something. And it's like, this is a really good resource for me. I should come back and visit the site because they have a blog coming out twice a week. So I should come back and see what they're saying, that type of thing. So you want to make sure, again, that website content is, I would argue, it's probably more important than the look of your website, but it's definitely equally as important. So make sure when you're working on your site, if you're creating a new site, that you're focused on that balance. Focus on the design, yes, make it look good, but make sure that you're answering people's questions. You're telling them not just what you do, but how what you do is going to help them in their lives, or if you're, selling to other businesses, how it's going to help their business. So again, just to recap, your website is critical. The Google search piece, important, because you want to drive people to your site. Once they get there, you want to make sure they stay as long as possible and that they keep coming back. They will keep coming back if you have good, helpful content, current content. If you are writing or refreshing your content every week, then people will come back because they want to see what you have to say. So there's a lot of opportunity for your website to really be a resource for your customers and your potential customers and your partners as well. And so keep that in mind when you're creating your site, updating your site, revising your site, etc. The next thing I'll talk about is the graphics, and this kind of goes into both website and social. And this is something else where you don't have to break the bank to get really good graphics. There are a lot of free or low-cost tools that you can use that will make your business look bigger and more, let's say you just started last year, but if you have a certain look and feel and your graphics are really great, people will think you've been in business for a really long time, which means they'll probably trust you a little bit more. And so even before, when I said don't overspend on the design part of your website, it doesn't mean it doesn't have to look great. I'm just saying don't waste a lot of money doing it. One of the tools that my team uses almost every day is Canva. And you've probably heard of that. It's free. There isn't a paid version as well, but you can do most everything you need for free. It's one of the best things ever. And it's one of those things where you don't have to be a graphic designer to be able to create things that look like you're a graphic designer. So they have a ton of different templates, again, for things that you can use on your website, but also for social media. And so you can really step your game up a little bit on the graphic side of things by using tools like this. There are plenty of other tools. That's just the one we happen to use. But taking some time to research and find systems and tools that you can use, that you can kind of have in your toolbox to, again, avoid having to hire a designer every time you need something, or, every time you need some social graphics. But using tools like Canva, again, there are other tools out there, would be really great. The other part of graphic design I want to mention is your logo. This is another area where people can spend a lot of money on logo design. Logos are important because it's part of making that first impression. So when people see you, they come to your website, or, we don't really do business cards anymore, but anytime you have something, whether it's your social media, but something that represents your business in a much shorter way, so a logo mark, that's really important as well. There are a lot of tools that you can use for either free or low cost to just generate logos for you. You can hire a graphic designer to come up with something for you. But logos are something that can really, again, help you stand out. It doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of money, but it does mean you have to think about it and focus on what it should look like, making sure it doesn't look like someone else's logo, making sure it doesn't look like, oh, I know exactly where they bought that logo from. You want something pretty unique. You want something that feels very connected to you as a business owner, connected to what you offer. You want it to be clean and simple, not something that's confusing that would cause people to be like, what in the world do they do? So there's a lot that goes into creating a logo, but it is something very important and can help you make a certain impression when people first see you. Again, a lot of marketing is about making that impression, because if someone goes to your website, someone goes to your social media and they don't like what they see, you'll never know about it. It's not like they're going to send you an email and say, hey, I didn't like your website. You'll never know about it. So you don't know about the missed opportunities. So you want to try to make sure from a graphic standpoint that your design elements and everything you're using looks really good. Your proposals, things like that you have everything very professional, very standard, and tools like a Canva can really help with that and really make you look like you've spent a lot of money on something even though you didn't. So I would encourage you to think about your design and your graphics. Again, not spending a lot of money, but just thinking about where can I go, what tools can I use to really make myself stand out from my competition. The next thing I wanted to mention was social media, and a couple of tips that I wanted to give on social. Social media, I believe, is very important to most small businesses. Again, back to the fact that so many people buy online, so many people research companies online. That's where they start. But one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is thinking that they have to be everywhere, meaning like on every social platform. And then what happens if you don't have a big enough team to help you manage that, then it's not being managed. So you might go to someone's Twitter and the last post was 2 years ago. Or you go to LinkedIn and their last post was like 6 months ago. That leaves it can leave a negative impression to people who see that. You'd be better off not having Twitter at all than having one and not using it. So what I encourage people to do is think about your customers and think about where they go to buy or where they go to learn. So as an example, let's say you have a product that is geared towards people in their 20s, right? And in fact, I talked to someone about a year ago who had a startup and they were doing a Facebook ad campaign. But their product was geared towards college students and recent college graduates. So to me, I'm like, that makes absolutely no sense because, Facebook doesn't have a demographic that young. Most people who are college age are not on Facebook. But to someone who doesn't maybe know a lot about social media, they didn't think that way. They just heard you should spend money on Facebook ads and then you can get more business, etc. So think about where your customers are, where your target customers are. Do they use Twitter more? Do they use Instagram? There's a lot of different social media platforms. Do they use TikTok? Think about what they use, where they are, and that's where you want to be. You want to go where your customers are because they're already on Twitter, for example. looking for information about something. So then if you're there, they're more likely to find you. If they're usually on Twitter and you're over here making a lot of Facebook posts or doing Facebook ads, that's not going to really help you. So to me, social media is number one about connecting with your potential clients and your clients where they are so that they don't have to do anything additional. You just want to be where they are. The second thing is kind of what I said. Make sure you're not spreading yourself too thin. Don't feel like you have to be on every channel. But whatever channels you choose, or channel, even if it's only one, make sure you're hitting a home run every time. Make sure you have a schedule. You're posting regularly. You're posting helpful information. Social media for a business is not about just promoting yourself. It's not about just selling or telling people how much things cost. It's no different than what I was saying about the website content. Inform and educate people. Make it so they want to follow you because you're helping them in some kind of way through your content, through your information. And then the last thing I'll say about social media is scheduling is very, very important and a really good way to save time so that you don't have to feel like every single day you're trying to come up with a post, but take maybe a few hours at the beginning of each month and plan out 2 or 3 weeks worth of posts, your graphics, your captions, hashtags, etc., and then use a scheduler. There are several schedulers out there. Most of them are reasonably priced, but they will save you a lot of time to where you can take a dedicated number of hours and get a few weeks scheduled out. And then the only thing you have to think about throughout the month is engagement and responding to comments and things like that. But you don't have to think about, in the midst of a big project or whatever, think about coming up with posts. So again, social, I believe, is very, very important, but just be careful about making sure you're not trying to do everything and be everywhere. Make it very focused, make it very intentional, and then make sure you're consistent. That would be my advice there. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was just around content in general. Now, there's content for your website, content for your social media, but the key, I believe, with content is create a lot of it and then distribute it and then repurpose it. And so what I mean by that is if you're, let's say you're a speaker and you speak at different events or you speak at different webinars and virtual sessions, make sure that you have that recorded and you can take that recording, and maybe your talk is 10 minutes. Well, you can take that 10 minutes, chop it up into little 1-minute sound bites, and you can use that as social posts. You could take that 10 minutes and there are probably 2 or 3 things you could talk about that could become a blog on your website. You can take that 10 minutes and maybe make it into a 4-minute video that you could put on your YouTube channel. So think about creating content is great, and that's probably the easier part. Distributing the content, determining where it goes, and repurposing it, making sure you're not just using it one time, is really, really important. And it'll allow you to take one piece of content, again, just as an example, if you're speaking, allows you to take that one piece of content and repurpose it in many different ways. That allows you to stretch out, so to speak, your content. Because a lot of people forget, especially with social media, just because I follow you on Twitter, I'm not going to see every one of your posts. So if you post something today and you post the same thing in 3 weeks, there's a chance I won't see either one of them, right? So you've got to post things frequently, not every day, back to back or anything like that. But you can post the same content over time and repurpose it, because you're not going to reach every single one of your followers on any channel every single time you post. And so making sure that you're, goes back to what I said about using a scheduler, right? Because you can take one piece of content, maybe it's a blog you wrote, and you can say, hey, I want to schedule this for next Tuesday, and then I want to schedule it again 3 weeks from there, schedule it again 6 weeks later. And it's just one piece of content, but you're putting it out there so that you can get as many eyeballs on it as possible. So content is very important. Video, as everybody probably knows, is really important. A lot of people are not comfortable doing video, but definitely people don't read as much anymore. And so seeing a video clip of the same information that you might write in a blog is a good way to, again, repurpose the content, but also reach a different audience of people who maybe don't like reading articles, but they'll watch a video. And so social, your website, your video content, events that you do, there's so many different types of marketing content that you can create podcasts. A lot of folks are getting into doing that. But just making sure that you're creating content, you're generating content, you are distributing it, and that you are repurposing it. And the last thing I'll say about content is that what I have found, again, back to not breaking the bank with anything you're doing marketing related, is that people are less, in general, people are less interested in the production value of something, especially videos. They're more interested in the content. So if you have something useful to share, something that really could help people, you don't need to spend a lot of time or money editing or having anything flashy in your video. Just provide good content, and that will help you. People will follow you, people will view it, etc. You don't have to feel like it's going to take you so long to do a video. Just do it. And that kind of, I wouldn't say rawness, but just the authenticity that probably would come across when you're not doing a lot of editing is actually what people care about more than just something really fancy or highly produced. And so, so content, first of all, everything is important that I've talked about, but content is something else that's really important. And it helps you to become kind of a thought leader. If you've heard that term, expert, you've heard that. But when you create content around a specific topic or a specific area, and people see that over and over again, they'll start to view you more as an expert. And so again, it'll help you with your following, but it'll also help you with your business, because when someone is ready to do that something, they're ready to buy that something, they're going to remember, oh, I saw these 3 videos that Amy did. Let me reach out to Creative Allies and see if they can help, right? It's kind of like keeping top of mind with your potential clients. So when they are ready to buy, you're one of the people they think of first to come to. So those are the areas that I really wanted to cover with you. Again, talking about graphics, Google search, website, social media, and content in general are some of the tactical marketing activities that I think you should be very aware of. Again, you don't have to be an expert in each of these things, but just be very aware of, and then know who the experts are. So know the people that you can reach out to. You've heard from Greg already. He's somebody that you can reach out to and ask questions of. You've heard from me. You can reach out to me and ask questions, but start to get to know people who have an expertise in different areas and just see how they can help you with your marketing if there's a certain area that you don't feel as comfortable with doing on your own. So I appreciate you listening, and I want to introduce our next speaker, Jay Hackett. He is out of Asheville. He is a social scientist that specializes in economic development, adult education, and leadership, bridging the gap between cultures and generations.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? So glad to be here, and thank you, Amy, for having me. We're really excited about what's going on just in the ecosystem, in the entrepreneurial world. This is a wonderful time, a wonderful moment for Black folks that are entrepreneurs. I'm Jay Hackett from up here in Asheville, North Carolina, and about a year ago, I started a coffee shop called Grind. It's Asheville's first Black-owned coffee shop, and we've had quite a bit of success this year. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you was just how we did what we did, and then how we came to launching the coffee shop, and then just some of our perspective on entrepreneurship as it relates to marketing. I'm from Philadelphia, and I came to Asheville for college back in 1998. But over the years, there are a few things that helped me in marketing. Now, just to kind of give you a sense of the power of marketing, I had never considered myself a marketer, not really good at sales and all of that. But what I realized that I am good at, I love people. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy learning from people. I enjoy connecting with people. And so I thought of myself becoming a public speaker one day. And there was a book I read called Money Talks. It was a great book. And actually, the book was written by Alan Weiss. And if any of you are interested, you should definitely get that book. I don't even know if it's in print anymore, but knowing Amazon, it doesn't matter if it went out of print 85,000 years ago, you can probably still get it. And I think I did. I probably ordered the used book for $1.99, but the $1.99 book still worked just fine. It still had the words in it. But anyway, Alan Weiss is one of the world's foremost consultants, but he wrote this book called Money Talks: How to Make $1 Million as a Speaker. And inside that book, he gave some perspective on things that you can do in order to increase your revenue. And I took that, actually it was just a page out of that book. I took a page out of that book and started to apply it to some of the things that we've done. We've done it at Grind. I've done it in other platforms. It had in the kind of tagline thingy. I'm the founder of Black Wall Street ABL. We're really grateful. About December of last year, we were awarded a grant from the NC Idea Foundation to launch Black Wall Street ABL. And this goal was to start, grow, and expand 20 Black businesses in Western North Carolina and revitalize Black Wall Street. And what we ended up doing, I think to date, we've enrolled about 58 Black-owned businesses. And together we revenue about $400,000. And so we're really excited about the progress. And we think that we're making the progress not because our coffee is just so wonderful, and not because we're the only coffee shop, and it's not even because we're Black, but it comes a lot because we're engaging with people. And so I wanted to share with you just some of those things that helped us. We are about to reach 10,000 customers. And so we're excited about having reached 10,000 customers. We've gotten a few awards. I think we were ranked the number 3 best coffee shop in the state of North Carolina, and a few other awards that we got. We launched Asheville's newest festival called Grind Fest, a celebration of Black business and entrepreneurship. But there are a few key things that we did that I think are really important, and I found them in Alan's book. There are actually 15 things that he talked about in his book that you could do to market, but there are a few things that I wanted to share with you today. One of those is writing. You can write an op-ed in your local newspaper. This is oftentimes it's in the section called Letter to the Editor. If you don't know exactly where to find it, just Google your newspaper, go to the staff section and look at community or look at editor. Or if you go to your newspaper and you type in op-ed, or you want to see where is the opinion piece at. The op-ed, OP-ED, is opposite the editorial. Oftentimes it's on the second page or in the second section. And this is also where a lot of the movers and shakers in your city are going to read. So the decision makers, the leaders of organization, this is what they're going to read. Also, this is what the news outlets read. This op-ed is the thing that is a bit controversial, is not going along mainstream, but it's an individual point of view. And whatever business you're in, you probably started that business based on some type of life experience. Inside of our cohort, we have one of the businesses is called the Pork Skin Crew. And it's a team of ladies that decided to fry pork skins. I don't think that they thought themselves as experts of frying pork skins in the beginning, but they gave themselves a shot and they started to come up with different flavors. And now they're doing extremely well frying pork skins. Another person in the cohort is a school teacher that came up with the skincare line, and now she's offering her products to Airbnbs and local hotels. What we think about in the op-ed is, what is your opinion about a thing that's going on? It is free to write, and it goes out in all of the newspapers. Now, you can either pay for an ad to go in your newspaper, which could be hundreds or thousands of dollars, or you can write an op-ed for free. Which one is it? You can do an ad, and that ad just is one picture, one statement, or you can share a full train of thought. The op-ed is about 700 words. Sometimes they go from like 550 to 700 words, but you want to write whatever your experience is, write whatever your opinion is. And in the tagline, just put that you are the owner of such and such company, put your email there, and you'll find that people will come to you with offers and with ideas, and it'll help increase your business. Another thing that Alan talked about in his book that I do, he offered the suggestion of teaching for free. Whether you teach at your community college as an adjunct instructor, or whether you do a workshop, or whether you accept a speaking engagement for free, whatever it is that you can do to get your story out and talk about your product. Now, truth is, I don't drink coffee. But I'm really glad that that we were able to make to make the strides that we have made. And it's not because I pretended to like coffee. It's because I share openly. I'm not a coffee drinker, but you can't be a jerk when you're drinking coffee. And so we decided to make coffee our unifier. And even though we're not the best coffee in the world, we're not trying to be the best coffee in the world. What we're trying to do is to bring people together around a good cup of coffee. And you can tell your story in many, many different ways. You can also teach. So when you teach, you want to find, is there a platform for you to share your information? Is a community college open? Is the Chamber of Commerce doing something? Is there a group, a business group, a nonprofit or for-profit group that needs a speaker? If they need a speaker, then make yourself available to speak. And what you'll find is that as you build relationship, people will be more inclined to buy from you. And actually, if you speak to the right groups, then people will buy not one at a time, but they'll buy groups at a time. They'll buy in bulk. They'll book you for larger revenue items. And then the last thing that Alan said, he talked about being involved with your community. So that includes being involved with boards, commissions, community groups. Now, of course, you don't want to overdo it because you got to run your business. But if you align yourself with successful organizations, then what you'll find is that those organizations are already doing something and they're already spending money. The problem is you previously did not know how they spent money. But if you can volunteer for some board that's with your county, with your city, maybe a program, an organization, a nonprofit or for-profit, be part of their organization and find out how they do what they do. And when you do that, you'll see that they're spending money on things that might be able to align with what you're doing. And then if so, then you'll be able to think, if they're spending money on this, then other organizations are spending money on it as well. One of the strategies that I use, I always research my city's strategic plan, my county's strategic plan. And then the state of North Carolina, your city has its own government, your county has its own government, and sometimes those plans are in two different locations. Find out what their plans are, and find out where is the office of procurement, and find out what does it take in order to get involved with that office. So when you think about what their goals are, and then who it is that's approving their spending, and what bids are open for you, then you'll be able to make an offer. You'll be able to make an offer and increase your chance of funding. Now, those are just some quick tidbits that Alan talked about in his book. It also includes online speaking, whether you're speaking for free, Facebook, Instagram Lives. Of course, we have TikTok. You can go on the radio. You can do internet radio. You can make blog posts. You can do stories or reels. You can make memes. Whatever it is that you can do in order to get your message out there. And people will be inclined to be attracted to you, and then to think about what it is that you have to offer. Now, when I was talking to Amy, we had a real good conversation, and we talked about just this idea of how to turn pain into profit. One of the things that I believe is that business comes out of you. Oftentimes, you'll find that a person has created a business based upon something that they believe, something that they need, some problem that they're trying to solve. Business comes out of you. And so I use this theme about turning your pain into profit. Whatever it is that has pained you should eventually pay you. Whatever it is that has at any point pained you should at some point pay you. But it's not going to do it automatically. You've got to make sure that it happens. Now, there was a period in my life, I started my first successful business. Now, I think I started my first business when I was a kid. My mom was one of the few parents in the community that had gotten a car, and so we could drive to the grocery store. Other people were buying Little Debbie snacks from the corner store for about 25 cents each. I could go to the grocery store, and get a box of them for $1. And so I came back with about 10 of them in a box. And as a kid, I realized, well, I can beat the price of the store and still make a profit. So I charged 20 cents, but the store charged 25. So people rather have bought from me. And because I only paid $1 for the box, and the box had 10 oatmeal cookies in it, then now I had $2 per box. I could go and buy another box, and that's how I stacked up my money. And I was just selling Little Debbie snacks and candy and all kind of stuff out the back window. But that was when I first started in business. But then just kind of growing up, I created a counseling agency in Richmond, Virginia, and the agency grew. I started when I was 26 years old, and I didn't have any lawyers, any accountants, anything. I was just good at what I did, and I took a chance on myself, just starting a business, and it succeeded. And the growth was phenomenal, and the growth was fast. And what happened, I had 150 employees. At 26 years old, we grew it to 150 employees and 500 clients. We're anywhere between 5 million and 7 million a year. And one of my employees filed bad paperwork. As a counseling agency, we would track everything using progress notes. And all of his notes were false. His degree was false. His credentials were false. He was saying that he saw clients that had not seen them. And I thought, wow, this is horrible. But I'm glad the feds caught him. I'm glad the Medicaid folk found out about him, and I cooperated with them, turned over all the documents. I didn't hold anything back. Didn't think anything of it. Like, man, he did wrong, and I can't believe that it happened. And then they fined me, and I had to pay a $300,000 fine. And that was in August. I paid the fine, and then I had another meeting with the state board of mental health in October. And in October, they told me, they said, well, Mr. Hackett, we understand that you paid the fine and you didn't know what was going on, and he did this, that, and the other. They said, but this is going to be turned over to the federal government for criminal charges. And at that point, they let me know that I was being held accountable. And I said, but y'all know I didn't know about this. And they said, well, Mr. Hackett, we pay you. You were paid enough where you should have known about it. And all of a sudden, my world crashed. By then, I was 29 years old, and I was just happy to be in business. I never thought that these types of things could happen, or that I could get in trouble for something that I didn't do. But the bottom line was that I'm the owner of the company, and I'm the one that was paid. And because I paid him, I was guilty of conspiracy, and so I was indicted, and I was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison, and I pay a $1.5 million fine. It was one of the hardest lessons I had to learn as a leader, because in the beginning I said, I'm going to jail for what somebody else did. When I really accepted responsibility, I realized I'm the leader and it's all on me. And a few things I learned was that I needed to have leaned on experts. I should have had better lawyers. I should have had better contracts. I should have had human resource specialists that were free to manage and to protect the company the way that they needed to. I should have had better accountants. I just didn't know. Matter of fact, my lawyer asked me, he said, well, you don't have accountants or nothing. I was like, well, I keep the lights on. I was just so naive. I was good at this, but business is more than your ability. Business is about leaning and depending on the experts that are needed. And so I learned a hard lesson, but I paid a price. Now, ended up happening, I had to learn how to figure out how to start over, and I turned my pain into profit. I designed a program for reentry where people are able to work on the 15 things that will help them reestablish their life after prison. And so I began to partner with reentry centers around the country, and they started to purchase my curriculum and my books. And then one thing led to another, and it started to build. And because I was involved with the city, I found out about the economic disparities that exist, and that gave me ideas about opportunities. What I want you to understand is that opportunities are all around you. You just have to pay attention to them. There is, and in the business world, there's money all around you. People just need a reason to give it to you. And what are you willing to do in order to get it? Are you willing to improve your quality assurance? Are you willing to tell your story? Are you willing to turn your pain into profit? And so I had to be very transparent. I have to be very, very honest and very open with people. And what I found was that people no longer run away from me, but they run towards me. And in the coffee shop, we're able to exceed in business and to create positions, but also we're able to be an example for reentry in the community. And so everything that has ever made me cry, everything that has ever hurt me, I look at it, and it's my job to figure out, how do I turn this pain into profit? So I write about it. I talk about it. I coordinate about it. I volunteer based upon it. I invite people based upon it. When one of the articles that I wrote in the newspaper attracted some attention. We were featured in Forbes magazine, and I got a call from USA Today a couple of weeks ago. A few TV shows have reached out. And then one of the most meaningful connections, because it was in the physical paper, we got a call from one of the state prisons that some of the gentlemen that were in prison found out about Black Wall Street, and they decided to coordinate themselves into a Black Wall Street chapter inside of Craigett Correctional. And so many of these gentlemen have already written books and have designed programs outside of prison. It's fascinating. But they meet once a week, and they wrote me a letter, and I talked to them on Wednesdays, and we talk about business and how things are going. Actually, in our coffee shop, we actually started to sell books that are written by people that are in prison. And so it adds layers to the meaning of what it is to be in business. As Black people, we've had a rough time. Our culture, our people, our race has been under attack in this country since the moment that we got here. And sometimes it's easy to try to avoid and ignore the pain. But it's important that we acknowledge, yes, it hurt me, but now it's got to pay me. And nobody's going to give you the chance. You have to take the chance. The opportunities are all around you, but what are you going to do? You have to take the chance. Take the chance to sell what you need to sell. Take a chance to tell your story. Write about what it is. Talk about what it is. Think about how this thing solves a problem, and then who can you partner with in order to make higher revenue. One of the most recent reports found that for Black folks for Black businesses in the state of North Carolina, the budget for the state of North Carolina, out of the whole budget, less than 0.2% was allocated to Black folks. Well, up here in Asheville, when we look at the disparities between white business owners and Black business owners, the white business makes about $400,000 a year, and the Black business makes only about $40,000 a year. Why is it that Black people make 90% less in business than white people? One of the national reports on Black business in COVID stated that one of the reasons that Black people make less money in business than white folks is not because their products are in any way less valuable. It's simply because they target customers that have a lower ability, have lesser spending ability. And so what we have to think about is, how can we as Black business owners position ourselves in the market so that we compete with our counterparts that are that have other skin colors. If you're offering an organic lotion, if you're offering some consumable product, or if you're offering some product or service, what is the going rate for that product? What is the going rate for that service in the community? What are white folks charging? And if they're charging that, then why can't you charge it? When we think about packaging and branding, why is it that they're able to afford XYZ? It's because they're charging ABC. And so we have to think about what it is that we do and what is the true value of it. When I looked at the tourism report in our county, we found that that tourism in our county, it is a $2.6 billion industry in our county. But it has an economic impact of $3.3 billion. We found that this is about a 66% impact, or economic impact ratio. So what that means is that if your business does $260,000 in revenue, then your business is actually making an economic impact of at least $330,000. So when you tell the story, you don't only want to tell the story about what sales you're bringing into the cash register. You want to talk about the economic impact of those sales. Also, research shows that for every one business that's created, there are 27 jobs created for every business, which means that there's a job created, and then there's a job to support the job, and vendors to support the job, et cetera, et cetera. And so everything that supports your business is a job, which means that every time you push forward in your company, you're helping the whole economy. You're growing the whole ecosystem. It becomes your responsibility to not only create jobs for the people that you see and they get a paycheck from you, but those people are spending money in the economy as well. And that dollar begins to turn around. Now, when Black people begin to spend money with other Black businesses, then it harkens back to the day after slavery was abolished in this country, when the people who were previously held as slaves, now they're free. and they're free with the same abilities. They're free with the same skills. They're free with the same talents that they had before, but now they're free. They're not only free, but they're free to do business. And what would happen is that that people post-slavery, it was illegal for some people to do business with black folks, to do business black folks to white folks. So in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they had oil. In Birmingham, Alabama, they had engineering or iron. In the Raleigh-Durham area, they had technology. The Jackson Ward neighborhood of Richmond, Virginia, that was known as the birthplace of black capitalism because it was the home base to many black-owned insurance companies, investment firms, and banks. Ironic it is that Maggie Walker, Madam C.J. Walker, she was not only the first female millionaire, not black, but first female millionaire, but she was also the owner of the penny bank. And I wonder why it would be that they would let everybody know that a black woman was in hair care, but they didn't let everybody know that the black woman owned the bank. We'll just leave that right there. It's important that we understand the figures and the figures and the things that black folks have done. What we also found out. What we've also found out was that in each of these economies, especially in Asheville, Vanderbilt was one of the prominent 5 families in the United States, and the Biltmore House is the largest estate in the country. We know that black folks built it, and so there are things that are on the front of Asheville's postcard that look very different on the other side of Asheville's postcard. On the front, it looks so pristine and wonderful, but on the back, there's a huge disparity between black and white folks, whether in business or working jobs in the economy. And what we're doing up here is trying to revitalize Black Wall Street. Some of the cohort members are in the virtual room right now. We're so glad that you've joined. But Asheville happens to be not only one of the largest city in our county and one of the foremost cities in the Western North Carolina region, but it also happens to have the right dots and the right heart to move people forward. And so we're partnering with the city, and the city is partnering with us. The county is partnering with us. The institutions, the anchor institutions, new businesses are partnering with us. And so Asheville is a thriving economy. The chambers of commerce are moving forward to partner. The investment community is partnering, and all you have to do is be willing to tell your story, and the same things would be possible in the city, in the cities and the counties where you are. So we want all of you to come on up to Asheville one day. As a matter of fact, it'd be great for you to come up during the weekend of Juneteenth of 2022. Where we'll have the second annual Grind Fest. It is the celebration of Black business and entrepreneurship. And at Grind Fest, we intend to have investors and partners available. Deals will be able to be closed right then. Of course, there's going to be lots of food and fun and fellowship. All of the vendors are Black. All of the presenters are Black. And we're just glad to be able to do something a little different, and really glad to be part of the family. We met Creative Allies through our partnership with NC Idea Foundation, and we're just really glad to be part of a statewide ecosystem. And we just believe that North Carolina should be on the map for more than just barbecue. And of course, we make the best barbecue. North Carolina can also be on the map for Black business and entrepreneurship. So thank y'all so much. I think I'm out of time. Y'all take care and keep in touch, okay? Bye-bye.
For our next segment, we are going to talk more about money. One of the important fundamentals of being a business owner is knowing how to manage your money. We have 3 financial experts here to talk with you today about just that. First, let me share something with you. According to Forbes, a disproportionate number of Black-owned businesses crumbled in 2020, in part because of their weaker cash positions, weaker banking relationships, pre-existing funding gaps, and negative lending decisions for Black firms. Managing your money and being prepared financially for months of slow revenue or no revenue is absolutely critical to keep your business running. To learn more about money management, you'll hear from our speakers today. Chris Wilson from Durham, Joycelyn Prevet out of Wake Forest, and lastly, April Hairston out of Charlotte. First up is going to be Chris, and let me take just a moment to share his background with you. Chris Wilson has worked in corporate America for companies such as Ashland Oil, Bristol Myers Squibb, and GlaxoSmithKline before becoming an entrepreneur. He now owns a chain of H&R Block stores in North Carolina and Virginia. Chris was named the first African American to serve as chair of the H&R Block Franchise Leadership Council. Through his business ventures, he creates over 120 jobs. Please welcome Chris Wilson to our summit.
Greetings, and thank you for the opportunity to come before this group and present. I am honored to be a presenter with amongst the other presenters. There's a very distinguished group of folks that are presenting today, and I am just happy to be a part of the group. My presentation today is on business entities, the pros and cons. My name is Chris Wilson. I am the chairman, president, and CEO of Wilson Enterprise. We own a chain of H&R Block stores in North Carolina and Virginia. In addition to that, we own some other businesses in and around the Durham area, and in business and have been in business for the past 20 years or so in the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area. So what I want to do today is talk a little bit about the business entities, the pros and cons, and look at the different entity types, and look at a couple of them that might be good strategies to migrate from. The first thing I want to do is talk about a key statistic in that 95% of all African American businesses start out as a sole proprietor or a single member LLC, 95%. And let's start with the single member or sole proprietor business. The pros of being a sole proprietor business is there's no formal startup process. It is easy to operate and dispose of. There's no liability protection on the flip side, except through any insurance that you might have. Another drawback is that 100% of the profits are subject to self-employment tax. There's a transfer of ownership can be kind of complex in a sole proprietor, and limited access to fringe benefits for the owner. A good fit for a sole proprietor business might be seasonal or part-time businesses with little liability, home-based businesses that only intend to operate for the life of the person running the business. Another business type is a single member LLC. It is a lot like the sole proprietor, but the difference is that it gives you that protection against liability. The limited liability company is what it's called. A good fit for this type of entity would be businesses with potential liability in operations, businesses intended to operate only for the owner's life. Another entity type is the multi-member LLC, and it is a good fit for businesses requiring equity capital with potential liability in operations, businesses expecting changes in ownership over time. Next is a general partnership. Those types of entities, a good fit for that would be two established businesses who want to work together as one. They would come together and form a partnership, or partners wishing to consolidate multiple entities into one entity type. Another entity type is the limited liability partnership. A good fit for this type of business would be businesses with partners not actively involved in the business, businesses that require equity capital, and businesses that are exposed to liability. So the limited liability partnership will be a good fit there. Next to last here is the C corporation. C corporations are used by the large multinational businesses. The major drawback here is the double taxation. It's a good fit for businesses with ownership in multiple other countries with significant exposure to liability, businesses intended to exist ongoing and eternally. And last but not least is the S corporation. It is a lot like the C Corp. However, it does not allow for double taxation. The profits will pass through from the S corporation to the shareholders, and is only taxed once. The other key piece of being an S corporation is the self-employment tax is not 100% assessed for your profits are not 100% taxed for self-employment tax. So that's a key factor there. A good fit for this type of business entity type is businesses with significant exposure to liabilities. So now I want to take a minute and talk about some strategies that you might use when considering how to be more tax efficient when running your business. As I said earlier, 95% of all African American businesses are established as a single member LLC or a sole proprietor. Now, the key drawback to that is 100% of your profits are subject to the self-employment tax. Let's say, for example, you had $100,000 in profit, and just for round numbers sake, we'll use $15,000 of that would be subject to self-employment tax. Now, if you took that same $100,000 and ran it through the S Corp, you could run $50,000, for example, through the payroll process, which includes the self-employment tax process as well. And the other $50,000 would fall to the bottom line, so to speak, and only be subject to income tax. So you would get a tax savings of about $7,500 there just by running your business as an S Corp, as opposed to a sole proprietor. So something to consider. The savings there would be significant, particularly as your profit moves higher on a consistent basis. So the other thing you want to take into account is there's some other factors in deciding whether to become an S Corp. Number one, it's going to require a second return. It's going to require you to set up payroll. So those are some expenses that you would incur. You're going to have a board of directors. You're going to have to keep minutes, things of that nature that comes along with being an S corporation. But, if you get that opportunity to control your tax spend, I think it's well worth the extra effort you would have to put in to run an S Corp to be able to control how much money you pay in Social Security taxes on the back end. There are some caveats to this in that you don't want to try to game the system here to where, for example, if you had $100,000 in profit, you only wanted to run $2,000 through the self-employment process and the other $98,000 to fall to the bottom line and only be subject to income tax. The IRS would frown upon that. They were requiring that you pay yourself a reasonable salary through the self-employment tax process. And you also need to make sure that you're paying into the retirement system. You have to pay in at least 40 quarters into the Social Security system in order to be eligible for drawing on it on the back end in retirement. So a couple of things to think about there. Maybe you want to consider migrating from sole prop over to S Corp. If you need help with doing that, feel free to reach out to our organization. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can help you and walk you through the process and help you along the way. And I encourage you as business owners not to be penny wise and pound foolish, and move in that direction so that you can have control over how much your tax spend is and how much money falls to the bottom line. Thank you for the opportunity to present. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, I'm excited to be before you today to have the opportunity to talk to you about some key components of money management. Money management encompasses all aspects of the finances of your business. It is important to start with a budget. When you create a budget, it gives you a roadmap to determine what it is that you're trying to do with your business and what the cost would be to actually do so. In creating this budget, you would then compare to your financial statements along the way to make sure that you're on track. Your financial statements will allow you to see what you're doing with your business on a particular date, where you are standing with your business, as well as to look back and see some of the things that you have done. This will allow you to forecast and to plan and make sure that you're on track. In addition to this component, you also want to have bank accounts that are separate. You want to have a checking account and a savings account, but you also want to make sure that you're not commingling funds and that you don't have any personal activity going through these accounts. This will create more paperwork for you in the long run and will create additional expenses for you as well if you have to have someone separate these things when they're actually handling your books. You also want to look at your debt. That's another key component. Before you sign on to additional debt, again, everything goes back to that budget and those financial statements. You want to look at where you are and where you're going, because you don't want to sign up for additional debt that you're not possibly prepared to handle in the future. Taxes are another key component of money management. Oftentimes, this is an area that is overlooked when we're operating our business. If you are an individual where you have employees as part of your business, then of course you have the employee taxes that you want to pay on a regular basis, but also you want to make sure that you're paying your quarterly taxes. This will help you in your planning process so that when you're looking at the monies that's in your account, you won't be basing expenditures on what you see, but you'll have to look at what it is, again, that you're forecasting and looking forward ahead to what you'll actually need to pay. Another thing that I want to say about looking at funds in your account, oftentimes we spend based on what we see in our bank account, and that's not necessarily funds that are readily available. Again, everything goes back to your financial statements and making sure that you're doing great record keeping and bookkeeping. Insurance is also an expense that's often forgotten about in starting up a business. Depending on the type of business that you have, you will have various types of insurance that you will need. One of the biggest ones is liability insurance, but certainly you want to make sure you talk to someone about your insurance to make sure that you have coverage for that. Documentation is really, really key in your money management. You want to document. This will make it easier for you to make sure that you're capturing all of your expenditures, that they're running properly through your books. In addition to, in building some consistency in doing so, it will become easier and easier. This habit will also help you if you find yourself in an audit situation where you have to show justification of your expenditures. So again, consistency, documentation, and justification are also key components of money management. Another component would be retirement. Don't forget about you. You always have to consider yourself and making sure, again, that you're planning ahead for the future, not just looking at where you currently are. I also wanted to talk about revenue sum. In this money management piece, it is important for you to make sure that you are always watching your revenue, again, forecasting, because you have to plan for things. For example, there are some unforeseen things, just like the pandemic happening during these times. And you have to look at where's most of my revenue coming from and how much time am I spending on creating this revenue. One key thing you want to remember is all money is not good money. So you do have to look at, will I have to decline some opportunities because it will take up too much of my time for the amount of revenue that I'm bringing in. So looking at work hours and man hours that a job takes is very, very important. My name is Joycelyn Privet, CPA. If you would like to learn more about some of these things, I would love to have the opportunity to speak with you. I can be reached at 919-454-8198, or you can email me at jprivetcpa@yahoo.com. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to allow me to speak with you briefly today, and I'm wishing you much success in your business and your future endeavors. And now I have the opportunity of presenting our next speaker. Her name is April Hairston. April is an accomplished, award-winning life insurance, retirement, and safe money wealth advisor with over 17 years of service within the affluent financial service industries. April is the CEO of the McCants Agency, powered by Equius Financial, which provides exceptional lifetime financial and asset protection services of life, health, and wealth to its clients. Please join me in welcoming April. Thank you.
I'm so excited to be a part of this summit today. Thank you so much to Amy Thomas and the Creative Allies for this opportunity to speak with small business owners. Amy, I'm so excited that you started off our conference summit with the word of collaboration. I am April McCants Hairston, the CEO of the McCants Agency, and our goal is to collaborate with small business owners to help them take their business to the next level. And one of the ways we do that is by helping them with retirement planning. A lot of times, small business owners are so focused on the day-to-day grind that they don't think about later on their retirement strategy and making sure they have that contingency plan as well as their exit strategy in place. And that's where we at the McCants Agency are here to assist you with making sure you're taking the steps to have the retirement that you desire. When you're thinking about retirement, you want to think about how are you planning today for the lifestyle that you want tomorrow. Today is imperative to take action. When we think about retirement, it can seem so far away, but what's essential is to take action now to make sure that you will be in the situation that you desire and not having to depend on the Walmart greeter as your retirement plan. So let's talk about ways that you can plan for retirement today. When you're thinking about retirement, there's 3 buckets that normally are going to have your retirement strategy in place. One of those buckets is the tax now bucket, and that is going to consist of normally your things that are already been taxed. So that's the money that's already in your checking account, already in your savings account, that's stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And then you have the second bucket. The second bucket is your tax later. Tax later is your 401k, your IRA, your SEPs. It's also going to be your 403b, and also annuities and pension. So those tax laters are the ones that a lot of people are currently investing in. And so they're putting all of their money into the tax later bucket, but we're going to talk about why that's not such a great idea. If you go to usdebtclock.org, you will see that our U.S. deficit is growing at a rapid pace. Unfortunately, right now, we are at $28 trillion in debt. And actually, in January, we started out at $23 trillion. So just in a short amount of time, we've accumulated over $5 trillion in debt in the U.S. However, Uncle Sam is saying, don't worry about how we're going to pay for it because he already has a plan. If you go to that same website, right beside that debt clock is saying that each taxpayer is going to be paying about $228,322 each to help pay down that tax debt. So when you think about all the money that has been dumped into our economy during COVID-19 and our government's attempt to keep us from going into a recession, you have to think about the fact that at some point, the buck has to stop. At some point, someone has to pay back this debt. And so when you think about that, what do you think is going to happen with our taxes? Do you think they're going to go up or do you think they're going to go down? Logically, they must go up. And so if you're putting all of your money in that tax later bucket, what that means is when you're finally ready to retire and you're finally ready to stop working and you're ready to start accessing that tax later money, the taxes are going to be a lot higher at that point. So what you may have expected to last you for your lifetime may now only last you for 3 to 6 years. And so there's where that fear comes in of outliving your money. If you outlive your money, that's where that Walmart greeter plan comes into place, where you have to go back into the workforce because you realize you don't have enough money to support your lifestyle. And so that's why it's so important to meet with a financial specialist such as myself that deals with safe money wealth advisement. And what we're going to do is to help you to put your money into a tax-free bucket. Doesn't that sound a lot better? No taxes on your money that you've worked so hard for. There are certain things that we can do to put your money in a place that is safe from the risk of the market, where you get the gains of the market, but do not participate in the losses. We have products that have floors that allow you to have the ability to have your principal safe and have that peace of mind of knowing that your retirement is going to be secure. You want to make sure when you're planning for your retirement that you are also having that key man insurance in place for your small business. If you have yourself and another key partner that's working with you, you want to make sure you both are covered. So if anything happens in the event of a major heart attack, stroke, or cancer, the business can survive. In many cases, the small business owner is the heartbeat of the business. And so if that small business owner unfortunately has to be out of work because of an illness or a sickness or a disability, a lot of times that small business cannot sustain that loss. And so you want to make sure that you have coverage in place that can help you sustain that recovery period, or God forbid, if you pass away, that the business can succeed and that your family can also be taken care of in that process. And that's where key man insurance is essential. Key man insurance can also have a tie-in to your retirement planning, and so they're working in tangent with each other. You want to also think about your exit strategy, making sure that you have plans in place to make sure that when you are ready to transition, your workforce is prepared, and also that your successor is prepared. And we at the McCants Agency are here to help you step by step, not only have that foundation of a strong foundation for your business, but also make sure you have asset protection in place to make sure that your business and the assets of your business are protected. Make sure that your staff and your employees are also protected as well. We want to make sure that you are empowered with the knowledge so that you can make educated decisions and also have your business set up for success. As so many of our speakers today spoke about the importance of being proactive and not reactive. So you always want to plan ahead for what is maybe on the horizon. So we encourage you to take a step to think about, what does your retirement look like? Do you want to still work in retirement? Do you want to completely retire? And then we want to have a customized plan to make sure that we have a retirement by design that's specifically for your wants and desires. When you're thinking about your investments in your financial future, you want to ask yourself 4 questions to see if you're on the right track. What rate of return do you have to earn on your savings and investment dollars to be able to retire at the current standard of living and have your money last through your life expectancy? Number 2, how much do you need to save on a monthly basis to be able to retire at your current standard of living and your money lasts till your life expectancy? And then number 3, doing what you are currently doing, how long will you have to work to be able to retire and live your current lifestyle till life expectancy? And last but not least, if you do not do anything different than you are doing today, how much will you have to reduce your standard of living at retirement for your money to last for your life expectancy? If you cannot answer one or all of these questions, we encourage you to give us a call so we can help you on that roadmap to retirement of your design. We can be reached at 704-440-LIFE. Again, that's 704-440-LIFE, 5433. Thank you again to the Creative Allies and Amy Thompson for the opportunity to speak in the summit today. We are here and we have a passion for helping small businesses succeed and have the business plan that they desire. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Well, it is about that time to wrap things up for this summit. I am so excited about everything that we've learned at this event, and I hope that you are as well. I want to thank every one of you for attending the Black Business Collective Summit. Definitely want to thank all of our speakers who shared time with us today, sharing their expertise and their wisdom. our partners, our ambassadors, and everybody who helped to make this event happen and make it such a success. We've learned a lot today. I know I have like a page and a half full of notes, and I think the important thing, as I asked you in the very beginning, is that you really focus on what can you take away from what you've learned today to implement right away in your business. The purpose of this was not for you to hear a lot of things from different people and then just go and do the exact same thing that you've always been doing with your business. Really, we wanted to share some very tactical and kind of actionable things that you could take away and implement right away to help grow your business. So whether that's kind of thinking through mindset, as we heard from Keisha, and what are those things that you really need to focus on? How do you make sure you have the right entrepreneurial mindset to be successful? We talked about funding options, and Talib shared with us, and Dr. Shante shared with us places that you can look, ways that you can find funding, and really understanding even what types of funding you should be looking for. That is also important. We heard from Larry Long Jr., we heard from Donald Thompson talking about sales and the importance of selling as an entrepreneur, even if it's not something you think is a strength of yours, or frankly, if you want to do it, doesn't matter. Selling is important, and everybody needs to sell when you have a small business. We talked about marketing. I talked to you about some really tactical things. Greg talked to you about marketing, as well as Jay Hackett. And so we were able to share with you, hopefully, some very practical things that you can think about and really implement into your business. And then we heard from really great experts talking about managing your money. Joycelyn shared with us, Chris shared with us, and April shared with us some great tips about, again, you are going to be successful, yes, if you can market your business, if you can sell, if you have the right mindset, if you know where to get money. But if you don't manage your money properly, especially when we are hit with things like what happened last year, where many of you are probably like what we went through, where you had a few months of literally no revenue coming in. And if you don't know how to manage your money to make sure you can weather those really invisible revenue months, your business is going to fail. And unfortunately, we know that a lot of businesses, especially Black businesses, didn't make it out of 2020. And so making sure you know how to manage your money, how you budget, how you plan, etc., understanding financial statements and things like that is also very important. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us. And again, I just want to thank all of the speakers for sharing their knowledge and wisdom with us today. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining us at the Black Business Collective Summit, and we will see you soon.